and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Welcome back to our continuous coverage here on NDTV World as we track down the election results of United States. The voting still in early stages, ladies and gentlemen, but early trends show can Donald Trump at this moment, which was expected to be a very tightly contest, a race to the wire, is Donald Trump defying the exit polls and expectations once again? At this moment, the latest, in fact, Donald Trump is leading Kamala Harris, 198 plays 112 so far. 270 is the Electoral College votes that Donald Trump needs to this race of White House. Both the candidates locked in a fight. Remember, it's still early to call. There are many states where the polling has just ended, the counting has just begun. We'll get you all the latest from the ground and the best analysis here in the studio. Let's start with the headlines we are tracking at this moment. Early poll forecast shows Trump crosses 270. Donald Trump leads on 198 electoral votes. Kamala Harris at 112 electoral votes needs a lot of catching up to do at this moment. Indian-American candidate Suha Subramaniam projected to win first Indian-American congressman from the East Coast. CNN projects Trump winning Ohio. Meanwhile, AP projects Harris wins District of Columbia. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuously tracking the twists and turns of the most dramatic American election, most consequential in the recent history as well. Gauri Dwivedi, my colleague, also with us from Washington, D.C. at this moment. Gauri, is Donald Trump, that's a big question that people have already started asking, is he going to defy the exit polls? 198 at this moment plays 112 in favor of Donald Trump.
Well, who knows that, Ankit? And if I knew that answer, I would have been a multi-millionaire, won't I? But what I can say right now is that some of the numbers that I'm seeing, these are, of course, early trends. They've given about upwards of 200 to Donald Trump right now. Kamala Harris is at 117, but the reason for that is that California hasn't been declared. That California alone is 54 seats, and that is set to go to Kamala Harris unless something really drastic happens. It is set to go to Kamala Harris. It is set to go to Democrat camp. So suddenly the number will change completely. So some very big states, the numbers haven't come out. California being one, as I said, Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, and of course Pennsylvania. Those big numbers are yet to come out, and as some of them, if they go towards the Democrat camp, that picture will change completely. So as things stand right now, it is very clear that, as they say, it's still game on, because right now there's a lot of electoral college votes that are up for grabs right now. Early trends do give an advantage to Donald Trump right now, but we should be seeing them just as what they are, early trends.
Absolutely. And, as they say, don't write off anybody, don't call the election till the last vote is counted. And it is a long way before that happens in this long night in United States at this moment. Parmeshwar also here in the studio with us. But the fact remains at this moment, we are yet to see what's happening as far as the swing states are concerned. Though, like states like Pennsylvania, where at this moment counting though has started, but it's still very slow. People are still, in fact, just early trends, emerging from there as well. Now, Huma Iqbal is joining us from Houston, Texas, a deep red state. So far, Huma, no surprises there, at least with Texas, and overall also in the picture, not a big state which was expected to go either way, flipping. So no surprises so far. It still remains a very, tight contest.
64% votes in.
We were hoping that this time a lot of people might swing towards more blue than red, because the past couple of years it did seem like people are converting to blue from red, but seems like it did not happen this time. And joining us is Sheriff Ed Gonzalez, who's been serving for the past 2 terms, past 8 years, and very highly likely that this year he's going to continue as well. Hello and welcome. So, what is your thoughts about? Do you think that state is ever going to convert to blue state?
I think so. I think sometimes change is long and difficult, but I think it's just a matter of time. I think the younger electorate that's maturing and going home will favor a blue law. That's a great that may take the law. It's essential. It's not easy, but it's happening. Progress is big.
Earlier, we had spoken to a lot of other immigrants about the immigrant situation from our part of the continent. How about your perspective from your part of the continent, for your countries and South America? What do you think about the immigrant situation?
I'm very pro-immigration. I believe that immigrants have contributed greatly to the greatness of our country.
Right, we will of course get you an update from Texas in just about a few moments. Let's go across to Arizona for now, Ankit, where Tony joins us from. Tony, it's a very close call, as we can tell. 49% votes in Arizona at the moment. The Dems at 49.5%, the Republicans 0.2% ahead at 49.7%. Quite the toss-up.
Yeah, I mean, the races here in Arizona are always extraordinarily close. When we look back to 2020, Biden won the election by fewer than 10,500 votes. When you think that there's more than 4 million registered voters, that is such a tiny, narrow margin that he was able to take this state. The first time that a Democrat had won Arizona since 1996 under when Bill Clinton took the state. So the races here are exceptionally tight. Officials have been warning that it was going to be a tight race, and they've also been warning that it's going to take a long time potentially to count all of these ballots, upwards of 13 days to count every single one of them. Part of the reason is that the ballot this time around is extraordinarily long. We're talking about 2 pages front and back. That's a lot of questions to fill out for the voters. It's a lot for these tabulation machines to be calculating. And then also there is a lot of people, upwards of 500,000, that dropped off these mail-in ballots today at voting locations. All of those ballots are going to have their signatures verified. They're going to have to then have 5 days if there's any discrepancies to work out any of those problems. And when you're talking about a margin potentially of, less than 1 percentage point, then every single vote is going to count here. There are a lot of issues that these voters are going to be voting on as well. One of them, of course, is this ballot measure to enshrine abortion rights into the state constitution. Democrats are hoping that that's going to bring out a lot of Democratic voters, or perhaps push some Republicans into Democratic territory. Another thing they're voting on, though, is immigration, a bill that would basically give state law enforcement the power to stop, question, detain, prosecute people that they suspect have crossed into the United States illegally from Mexico into Arizona. Of course, Arizona is a border state, the only one of all of the battlegrounds. So it is really on the front lines of the immigration debate, which, as you know, is top of mind for a lot of voters this time around. But as it looks right now, Arizona, in these first batch of results that we're getting out right now, very, very tight between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. But again, this was to be expected. It's going to be many days likely before we get the final results here.
Indeed, in fact, let's also get in Alistair, who is at a watch party where Suhas Subramaniam has been declared the winner. In fact, it's a very significant moment, Alistair, isn't it, for Suhas and also, of course, for the entire Indian American community. It's more so in this election where they've really come to prominence, haven't they?
Yes, absolutely, Gauri. As you know, we have about 5 Indian American Congress people currently in office. Of course, we're waiting on results on the others as well. But if they win, and now that Suhas is Congressman-elect, it would be a number. The number would go up to 6. So this Samosa caucus, so to speak, from India going up to 6 potentially. Of course, waiting on the results of some of the others as well. And I'm joined here by some of Suhas's supporters as well. As you can see, the party has kind of died down because we know that Suhas is now the winner in this as U.S. Congressman for Virginia. And Buta, she told me I had to get her name right. How does it feel knowing that you've worked hard and now Suhas is in office? What are you hoping that what kind of change are you hoping he's going to bring?
I think the change that we hope that he brings is the things similar to what he's already done as a state senator and a state delegate, and that is representing the interests of the people and providing the diversity. In Loudoun County, which is going to be the jurisdiction that he predominantly represents, we are 26% South Asian. Now we have somebody here who represents that. That's amazing because we want our young people to be able to see themselves in their leaders, and Suhas is the epitome of that. Now, as far as the interest that we expect them to be able to move forward on is going to be protection of women's rights. It's going to be making sure that people have an affordable ability to be able to have affordable housing and also to have opportunities for businesses. So those are the things that I see that he will bring to the table and be able to be the leader for.
All right, Derek, you have some big concerns about what might happen if Donald Trump comes into office, something very personal as far as Trump's immigration policies go. What is it?
Sure. So my family has been here for hundreds of years. I'm an African American, but I'm married to a Mexican American, someone of Latino descent, obviously. And I think it goes without saying that we have an understanding that there has been a systematic targeting of people who are coming across the border to seek asylum and all different things. My wife is someone who actually works with asylum seekers and happens to be first generation, an immigrant herself. And the conversations that she and her friends have, unfortunately, I can't relate to it, but I do have the same fear that they have, where there is a fear that very well folks who sought asylum or gotten citizenship, others who've been naturalized, that there's a possibility because of the rhetoric that is being spewed by certain parties in this country, that it's possible that these people could be set back. And it's unfortunate.
All right, how are you feeling right now? Things still swinging along because we haven't got that verdict yet on the swing states. How does it feel? Are you jittery, nervous, based on whatever you've heard?
So I'm very nervous because the stakes are so high. Or like we have the opportunity to take our country forward or push us back 50 or 150 years. So the risks are very great. I'm always hopeful. And I hope that Vice President Kamala Harris is able to prevail. And that's what we're going to keep praying on and making sure that we are supportive of her being able to do that.
And very lastly, Derek, it's not just about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Everyone's also watching keenly what happens as far as the Senate and the Congress go, because if they don't have that leverage there, well, the president really can't do much on several fronts, right?
Yeah, I think to your point, the power, we've seen the levels of power that the presidency has because of Trump's presidency. We see how far he can go and how far you can't go, right? And a lot of it has to do with those elected leaders that we elect, like Suhas, those in Congress and those in the Senate. And so we do look forward to having a Senate that is on the side of, of progress, as Buta just mentioned, and one that's not going to help a president take us back 150 years.
All right, thank you very much for joining us here. Going to be a long night, it looks like. Hopefully we get some sort of sense of what's happening. Thanks again for your time on NDTV.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations to your supporter of having supported Suhas Subramaniam.
Excellent. Thank you.
And hand it back to you to Gauri Dwivedi. Gauri, I think you're still at Howard University, right? How's it looking there?
I am at Harvard University, and the mood of celebration is in fact only growing. And before I get in William from Florida, let me just tell our viewers, why is there this mood of celebration when the numbers don't seem to indicate that? For one clear reason, one, some of the biggest states like California are yet to be called, and that is set to go to Kamala Harris. And second, just a very basic scenario building for our viewers right now. As of now, Donald Trump is leading in Georgia and North Carolina, important states. So one may believe that with those two, he is headed to victory, but there is still a possibility that Kamala Harris can reach that 270 mark if she is able to win Wisconsin, Michigan, and of course Pennsylvania.
In fact, Gauri, in the latest, the latest is that Donald Trump is leading at this moment, a slender lead, but he's leading in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin as well,
and Georgia,
and Georgia, along with North Carolina. And on the other hand, Kamala Harris has leads in two of the swing states, Arizona and Michigan. So at this moment, it's 4-2 among the 6 swing states. Nevada is yet to, in fact, start as far as the trends, are supposed to come in.
As they say, kuch bhi ho sakta hai in Hindi, as they say this. And we can ask that to William as well in Florida, that it's too early to celebrate there as well, isn't it? Because it's really down to the wire. And as some of these updates seem to indicate, that the 2 states where Donald Trump has a much better chance of winning right now is Georgia and North Carolina, because there is a lead there. It's still too early to call, given so many swing states in play right now.
That's absolutely right. And here at this Donald Trump supporters party, well, the band may have left, the crowd might be thinning somewhat, but that is not to say that the optimism has waned at all. Quite the opposite. Just a few moments ago, before we came on air, there was a big roar from the supporters that have remained here at this supporters bar when some of the networks here in the US called the state of Iowa for Donald Trump. Now, that is only 6 electoral college votes, but just a few days ago, a poll came out that shocked many across the US that gave Kamala Harris a surprise win in that state. So there's certainly some optimism among Donald Trump supporters that that particular poll was an outlier. He, of course, has now won that state, and they hope that that is a further sign that there is momentum, not just in some of the swing states you mentioned, but across much of the Rust Belt. This race, as you rightly mentioned, far from over, but the view from many of Donald Trump's supporters here is that Kamala Harris's road to victory is certainly getting narrower and narrower, but of course with so many votes still to be counted in some of those crucial states, including in the Rust Belt, the likes of Michigan, the likes of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, of course, still early.
Okay, Gauri has some important update there. Let's very quickly go back to Gauri. Over to you.
Ankit, I think fresh update coming in is that Donald Trump has won Iowa along with Kansas. If that is true, that's very significant, because Iowa over the weekend, one of the most credible pollsters had said that Kamala Harris would be able to flip, and that gave her a substantial chance of being able to reach 270. These are just latest trends, and in fact this is an update that's coming in. If Donald Trump has indeed won Iowa, then that's a huge plus for him in terms of his path to 270. And given the fact that Kamala Harris is trailing in some key states like Georgia, then that's important.
This is exactly what William was in fact talking about, that gives a lot of optimism to the Donald Trump supporters. He was speaking about Iowa, how it has in fact been won by Donald Trump, which was earlier, like you are saying, being projected by a pollster to in fact flip to Kamala Harris. But Parma, at this moment, like we were talking about the swing state, the latest coming in is that even Michigan, where Kamala Harris were earlier leading, now it seems has gone, Donald Trump is leading in Michigan as well. So at least in the swing states, which are crucial, it's looking difficult at this moment. A lot of catching up for Kamala Harris at this moment.
Indeed, it seems like it's going to be an uphill task for Kamala Harris as things are out. Gauri, is it still too early to be doubting whether the Democrats will be able to match up to Trump sort of standing as we speak?
Okay, we can do that basic math. 54 of California and 19 for Pennsylvania. That's about 73. Basic, I think that if we add, and along with that, some of the other states, then that, you know, it may just come down to maybe 1 or 2 states here or there. So that is the reason why nobody is really willing to give it up. Also, again, the fact is that the margin, if it comes down to very little, then that increases the hope of a recount. And in the event of a recount, who knows who will end up becoming victorious, which is the reason why no campaign is either celebrating too much or is giving any signs whatsoever of conceding even an iota of territory there right now.
Right, we've also got Chris Kankeho with us from Michigan. Chris, nearly 80% of the votes have been counted in Michigan. Does it seem like Trump is going to be entering the White House yet again?
Well, I see that 26% of the votes are counted in Michigan, and Trump has taken the lead. And the Secretary of State, who's the top election official in Michigan, said that they were on track to beat their highest election turnout from 2020, which was 5.5 million people voting. At least 3.3 million people in Michigan voted early. It was the first election in which they were allowed to do so. And we hope to get the totals from the big urban area of Detroit, where I am, hopefully by tonight or tomorrow. So we will really see, you know, what the margin is, because we don't know. Donald Trump is leading right now, but we don't know where the outstanding vote is to be counted still.
You know, can I then just ask you a supplementary question on that? Because in Michigan, which has a very mixed population, a large population of the Muslims and the Arabs, has the Gaza war and the way the Biden administration has in fact gone ahead with that, there has been a lot of criticism. Has that played against Kamala Harris as far as Michigan is concerned?
Oh, absolutely. I heard it on the ground in Dearborn, which is the first Arab majority city in the U.S. as of 2023. You know, I was trying to get some people to talk on camera, and they didn't even want to go on camera because they said they had family in both Gaza and Lebanon, and they could not support the current administration. But whether they voted for Trump or a third-party candidate or left their vote blank in the presidential race, they wouldn't even say that to me, because it's such an emotional issue. But I should tell you that during the primary, when Joe Biden was still the candidate, there was an effort as a protest to have them vote uncommitted, and 10,000 voted uncommitted. And so in a state that Donald Trump only won by less than 11,000 votes, you know, that kind of swing amongst, you know, a key voting bloc could matter here in Michigan.
Indeed.
That's right. In fact, important updates are also coming in. And Natasha, our colleague, is with us from the other important swing state. Gauri was also talking about 19 electoral votes of Pennsylvania. Natasha is at this, at least Natasha, what I can see running behind you, are you at a Donald Trump supporters kind of you know, place, a party there? Because at least at this moment, Fox News is playing behind her. At least at this moment, with us, it's 210 in favor of Donald Trump, playing 112 for Kamala Harris. And even in Pennsylvania, there is a slender lead for Donald Trump.
Yes, we are the young Republican Party in downtown Philadelphia, one of Pennsylvania's largest cities. And as you can see, there's a lot of cheering here, but the people here have been sitting here for the last 2 years, and they've been increasingly happy to see their candidate, Donald Trump, light up their screen that they've been watching. Joining us is a young Republican, and we want to talk to him about how he thinks it's looking for his candidate tonight.
Yeah, I mean, do you have a starting question, or should I just go?
Yeah, no, I want to ask you, how do you think it's looking for your candidate tonight? Do you think there's a chance he can actually win Pennsylvania, which is a key swing state with 19 electoral college votes?
Pennsylvania is an understatement. I think he's going to win the country, no doubt. And there are a lot of people here who have, you know, concerns about that. People are all nervous. My buddy over there is shaking his foot, but he's going to win. You know, there's no question about it in my mind.
You were telling me earlier that you feel that you are a forgotten minority now in this country.
Absolutely.
Why were you saying that? You know, a lot of people consider the white male man as actually the majority in this country.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the majority has, and you know, I'd say accidentally become the minority, mentally speaking, right? Where I think, you know, economically and socially, people like me are sort of thrown under the bus in order to enable people who are, not to say anything, but like the border and whatnot, right? Illegals and whatnot. Like the message becomes, oh, how important are these people for the country? When it's, it's up to you whether or not you want to give these people asylum or not give these people asylum, but it feels like they come before the average American nowadays.
So you see yourself as the average American, and one of the things that you're concerned about is your job, right? But at the same time, this economy in the United States also runs on the labor of immigrants. A lot of businesses, even white-owned businesses, might suffer if there is a reduction in immigration in the country.
Well, I mean, that's true. There is some input from illegal immigrants and whatnot, but legal immigrants is more what you want to focus on. Is we haven't had a functioning economy for years. I can't afford groceries, right? I'm not in poverty, and I can't afford groceries in a rational sense, right? If I wanted to have kids right now, how could I supplement my family? How could I pay for my family?
So what we're hearing right now is something that I've heard from others too. A lot of concerns from white young men and also other ethnicities around the economy, around inflation, around their grocery bills, and a lot of them feel that Donald Trump will bring the answer. So when he says questionable things about immigration and the border, that doesn't bother them as much as their own pocket and their own wallet.
Well, I mean, I'll say this. It's not a racial issue.
I'm throwing it back.
In fact, Ankit, that's something that has come up in the past 6 months as well, that in Pennsylvania especially, people have been complaining about price gouging, that the prices for basic things are just way too expensive. They don't really focus that much on the term inflation, but price gouging and the fact that everyday necessities are now causing a dent in their pockets is a concern for American voters.
Absolutely, and it seems to be a big concern that is also, at least at this moment, has given an edge to Donald Trump in Pennsylvania as well. All right.
Seems so.
That's
well, news and updates continue right here. Extensive coverage with the one and only Ankit Tyagi and the rest of our team here. Slipping into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. The swing states are going to be declared any time now. We are going to get you the latest.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने.
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
AI is going to be one of the most important, drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बनी।
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right. AI is going to be one of the most...
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Our continuous rolling coverage here of the US election, the 360-degree view that NDTV World promises you on this very, very critical election. I'm being joined by my colleague Parmeshwar here in the studio. We'll also go across to our colleagues spread across the United States.
But let's begin with the headlines before we get you the lowdown. Early poll forecast shows Trump crosses the 270 mark. Donald Trump is leading with 210 electoral votes.
Kamala Harris at this moment leading on 112 electoral votes.
Several battleground states are too close to call. There's a razor-thin lead for Trump in 5 swing states. Well, Gauri Dwivedi has been tracking the latest developments for us. She's at Howard University at the moment. Jubilations behind her. Gauri, take us through the current state of affairs as far as the 7 battleground states are concerned. How do things stand?
That's pretty much where it boils down to, doesn't it, Parmeshwar? As far as the battleground states or the swing states are concerned, Donald Trump is most certainly leading in Georgia. That state accounts for 16 electoral college votes. It was expected that he would be able to flip it in this election, given that he lost by a wafer-thin margin. That's one. Second, North Carolina, again, 16 electoral college votes, where Donald Trump is again leading. One may say that, of course, only about 30% votes have been counted so far, actually less than that. But the fact is, there is a lead that Donald Trump has there. Pennsylvania, 19 electoral college votes there. In some counties, voting ended as late as, in fact, 11 o'clock ET. Right now, it ended. So it may be some time before we actually get to know which way Pennsylvania goes. But some very early trends seem to indicate that Donald Trump had made some dent there as well. So if he gets Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina, then his path to 270 is almost certain. He just needs one more state to flip for him for it to happen. As for Kamala Harris, well, if she's trailing in Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania is very early, then she's got to pick up all the remaining and then hope for that tiebreaker to come in from Nebraska. Nebraska has 3 seats. 1 has been declared. The remaining 2 are yet to be. And if it does happen there, that could probably be Kamala Harris's best bet. But what I can say is it may take some time before the swing states give a verdict, and it's only then we will know whether the celebration party here that's going on will continue through the night or will have to shift halfway across to Florida.
All right. So, very, very important, these swing states. And, as we have been discussing, last few elections, Pennsylvania has always also been a bellwether state.
Yes, indeed.
You've not gone to White House without winning Pennsylvania. That slender lead at this moment for Donald Trump. Now, let's just take a look at the chances of winning. Now, this is based on the leads and the results which are coming in so far and the number of seats which are left. So at this moment, a slight increase in the chances for Kamala Harris, 37%, but Donald Trump sitting there at 62% at this moment, because even if you look at the numbers, the 214 electoral votes play 178 for Kamala Harris. She has caught up, but still Donald Trump there in the lead. And at this moment, like Gauri was telling us, Parmeshwar, if you have the lead in 5 of the 7 swing states, that is going to give a lot of heart to the Republican voters and Donald Trump supporters.
And just imagine what it's doing to Donald Trump as we're speaking right now, Ankit.
Absolutely.
In fact, we have a Republican and Democrat voice on the show with us at the moment. Alex Zidane joining us, Republican strategist, live from New York. Also with us, Spencer Critchley, former communications advisor for the Obama campaign and a Democrat strategist. Spencer, I'd like to begin with you first. Let's dive right into the black voters. As many surveys have highlighted, a lot of black voters seem to be moving away from Kamala Harris this time around and leaning towards Trump. Can you take our viewers through why this might be happening?
There was certainly some movement among black voters as well as Hispanic voters, and that should be cause for concern to not just the Harris campaign, but to Democrats as a party. The last I saw, some of that movement was reversing. It appeared in particular that black voters and young black male voters were returning towards Harris. But the fact that there was any question should be of concern to Democrats. I think that it's a case that Democrats are wrestling with more broadly, where their policies benefit the great majority of Americans, not just black voters, Hispanic voters, but working and middle class voters. And yet many of those people have stopped believing that, often for more cultural reasons than for fact-based reasons, I think. Now, this is not to say that those people are stupid. It's to say that very often cultural connections greatly outweigh factual arguments. And I think Democrats in general have struggled to unite both the factual substance they can claim, where their policies really do benefit a majority of Americans, a strong majority of Americans, but unite that with a cultural story that resonates with a great majority of Americans. Now, all of that said, I don't want to encourage any judgments too soon, because we could be seeing the famous red mirage right now. Very often elections have shifted as the night goes on and more Democratic-leaning votes are counted.
In fact, that's right. Earlier, we were seeing, now the California has been called for the Democrats, and that's why you see a swing up for Kamala Harris in those numbers, 179 at this moment, place 214. But Alex, if I may come to you, there has been a change of strategy that we saw as far as the Republicans are concerned. Last election, President Trump was very vociferous against the male vote, and he kept speaking against it. This time, there has been a lot of shift in the policy to try and get the male vote as far as the Republicans are concerned, the early vote as well. Is that something that is paying off? Because at least at this moment, the crucial factor has been not just how many people came out to vote on the polling day, but also the number of votes which were, in fact, polled even before the polling started.
Well, I certainly think that mail-ins have been catching on with Republicans, but the early vote has just exploded among Republican voters. They really like it. I saw it myself when I went out to vote on Saturday. Across the country, Republican voters have embraced early voting. And I think you're seeing the results of that tonight, not just the issues that former President Trump leads on, like the economy, like the border, like his peace through strength message, which resonates with every person who votes for him, regardless of their race, color, or creed. But just the fact that Republicans are now running to go out and vote early is a hugely encouraging sign, and it's something that I think that we're seeing pay off right now. Obviously, it is too early to fully claim victory, but right now I think former President Trump is exactly where he needs to be, in an excellent position to retake the White House.
Right, we also have John Rosamondo joining us, who's a U.S. national security commentator. John, there have been many concerns that have been that geopolitical watchers, political analysts have highlighted across the globe, that if Trump gets a second term in office, this time he's coming back with no guardrails. What would this mean for foreign policy? What would this mean for Washington being in good hands as far as NATO is concerned? Take us through some of the implications.
Well, I think this means a return to the sort of peace through strength that we saw in the first term, and also a return to the sort of peace through strength we saw during Reagan's time in office. The last 4 years, we've seen appeasement time after time by the Democrats. We saw that starting with Joe Biden giving away the nuclear agreement when he first came into office, to him appeasing the Iranians. So I think that it is a return to the U.S. working together with India as a major partner, working together with our partners in NATO, but putting more of an emphasis on the Europeans picking up the slack in Europe, with the United States playing a role as a leader. I don't think that we're going to see any sort of isolationism, which has been an unfair criticism leveled by the Democrats and their allies.
Just a corresponding question to that, and specifically talking about Europe, when there is a war going on between Russia and Ukraine, where so far the administration, the Biden administration, has been quite supportive of Ukraine. Donald Trump has continuously been saying that this war has to end. How do you see that happening if, in the likely or in the scenario Donald Trump wins and he reclaims the White House? What happens to that conflict as we speak?
As far as if you're asking me, the conflict in Ukraine is something that simply is not winnable by either side. Ukraine has become a meat grinder. It's very idealistic to claim that we can win and push the Russians out of the territory they control. I mean, I think that right now the best alternative is something akin to what we have in Korea, where we've had a demilitarized zone for the past 70 or some years. And, I don't think that there's any way that Ukraine is going to retake the territory currently held by the Russians, doesn't have the military means to do so. And NATO doesn't have the ability to push the Russians out. So you have to be pragmatic in this situation. I think that President Trump and his national security team will push for pragmatism instead of throwing hundreds of billions of dollars for a strategy that hasn't worked.
Wars, as you know, are becoming ever harder to end. As we speak currently, do you believe the United States remains the most consequential international actor in matters of peace and security?
States has a leading role. We have the largest economy in the world. We have the most powerful military, and we have a lot of credibility. President Trump showed in his first term that he was able to show leadership. He was able to get the NATO members to increase their contributions to over over 2% of their GDP, as was required under the NATO agreement. He also was able to work with Prime Minister Modi to increase the cooperation between the United States and India, and also work with people like Shinzo Abe and Japan to encourage the rearmament, which is something that shows that Donald Trump is not an isolationist.
Right, Spencer, let me bring you in, at this moment with a lot of issues that are being spoken about, and at least the exit poll, while they put democracy right at the top, followed by economy, and then also there is a lot of resonance as far as the reproductive rights are concerned. The Harris campaign would have been hoping that apart from the Democrats, they would be able to get significant votes, even in red states, from the women voters, at least at this moment with the trends coming in. That doesn't seem to be suggesting that there is a significant dent among this issue as far as the red voters are concerned.
Yes, at this point in the evening, again, with the caveat that we really don't know what's going to happen later in the evening, unless Trump manages to go over the top later this evening. There's a lot I would challenge on a factual basis with what we just heard. But rather than get into the weeds about that, I think that by far the overwhelming issue in this election is that it is not a contest, a normal contest between Republicans and Democrats, or between any version of the right and the left that we're familiar with in a liberal democracy. this is a vote for either one candidate, Kamala Harris, who is in favor of continuing liberal democracy, the liberal democracy that America was founded on as the first one, or overthrowing that, which Trump has already tried to do, not just on January 6th, but through all the months and months of preparation and the multifaceted plan he put together to literally try to overthrow our democracy. And it's far too easy to lose sight of that fact. It's one of those things that's such an enormity of a fact that people tend to banish it from their minds and want to turn towards the normal kinds of debates over economic policy or foreign policy, environmental policy, etc. But really, this is a choice between whether we are in favor of liberal democracy or not. And it's not just Trump following his impulsive, frankly, gangsterish impulses that he did in his first administration. Now he has a large core of committed ideologues who have made no secret of their hostility to liberal democracy. Many of them believe that the United States should be converted to a Christian dominion, taking us back not just to the 50s, as is often said about Trump, but taking us back centuries before the Enlightenment into the Middle Ages. This really is the most concerning issue, as I say, and by far the overriding issue in this campaign. And I would also just, in closing, note that it is part of a global trend. We're seeing this in other advanced democracies like Germany, Italy, France, Britain, and indeed in the Ukraine-Russia war, where Russia represents the anti-liberal forces in their most extreme form, led by a man who Trump openly admires, along with the world's other dictators, attacking an independent liberal democracy. So really, this is an enormous issue, and I think every other issue pales in comparison.
Well, before we get in a word from Alex as well, let's just take a look at the latest visuals coming in, Ankit. The Harris campaign rally on the left side of your screens and the Trump campaign rally on the right side of your screens. Packed crowds, as expected.
But, you know, packed crowds, and if you look at these numbers, very hopeful supporters there. But it also tells you at this moment that you know, it's muted expectations from both sides. I mean, there is not over-the-top celebrations at this moment, either in both the camps. And, you know, like we've been talking to our guests as well, this election, you couldn't have had two such contrasting, polarizing figures and absolutely different political ideologies battling it out in United States, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, Alex, let's get in a word from you as well. Many actually say that the average American is actually very skeptical about Kamala Harris. In fact, many in your quarters say this out louder, but here she is running against an impeached felon, and it's still a toss-up. How is it that you and your campaign have been able to sort of galvanize such a huge support in a short period of time since when Kamala Harris entered the race?
Well, thank you for letting me respond. I really thought that Spencer was going to accuse the Republican Party of trying to take the U.S. back to the time of the dinosaurs in prehistory. The way that former President Trump reaches people is that he reaches average, regular people who are concerned about their lives, who are concerned about how to put food on the table, who are concerned about crime and migration, who are concerned about their children's future, going to schools, potentially being indoctrinated by woke topics. That's how former President Trump reaches people in their kitchen tables, in their homes, as they go to work, in their hearts, as part of their families. That's the message that works here. And by the way, there's no mystery on what President Trump will do when he gets back into office. He'll construct that southern border wall that he's been advocating for since 2015. He'll improve the economy and lead America and the world with peace through strength. No one knows what Kamala Harris would do if she is elected president, which seems less and less likely by the moment, because Vice President Harris made very little of her plans, didn't give people specifics. People know Donald Trump. He has a record of 4 years when he was president, when America was prosperous and safe. That's what people are reacting to. They want that prosperity and strength back. And they were not able to find any indication that Kamala Harris is capable of delivering that for them and their families.
But Alex, let me ask you this then. I mean, it's still very early. Yes, there are, I mean, at this moment, Donald Trump leads, but, one or two states, swing states here and there, and the result could completely turn on its head. Let me ask you this. Donald Trump has been seen as somebody who is, for the lack of a better word, very abrasive in his approach. The way he speaks, he alienates also a large section of the people, including women, those who have been speaking about, and also people from various descents in America. Is that a worry in the Trump campaign, or does that, somehow come across as a strong point for the core Trump supporters, the core Republican supporters?
He's not alienating people so far tonight. And if you look at the numbers, for black men, the numbers for Muslims, and the youth vote, former President Trump is making strides in those areas, in addition to Latinos, depending on where you look on the map. I think that former President Trump's appeal is that he speaks like a regular guy, a guy that you could walk into a bar and have a conversation with, because he's that blue-collar billionaire that he's been since his developer days in New York City and in Atlantic City, New Jersey. He's a regular guy. He's not some sort of policy wonk sharpening his pencil inside a room in the U.S. Capitol. He's a regular person, and I think people gravitate to that because they want someone who represents them leading their country. Let's not forget former President Trump's greatest slogan that so many people gravitate towards, people who feel oppressed by the establishment and the system. What he says is, they're not coming after me, they're coming after you, but I'm the one standing in the way. People respond to that in a very visceral, positive way.
Alex, you have just said that Donald Trump is a normal, regular person, but then what about the curbs on personal freedom rights? Things like abortion, a male making decisions for a female's body. That's been one of your key issues this election. In terms of being a regular guy, how is it that Donald Trump, born with a silver spoon, is seen and perceived as a regular guy? What has actually gone into building this perception around him?
Well, first, I'll say this about abortion. President Trump was crystal clear. There will be no federal national abortion ban when he returns to the White House. That is a hard no. It's not going to happen. He's not in favor of it. That is something that takes a lot of those issues regarding abortion and puts it on the state level where, by the way, the Supreme Court, not Donald Trump, says they belong. President Trump has an ability to connect with people. I don't know if you've seen the photos of him in front of a large table of McDonald's, him serving at McDonald's in Pennsylvania, driving a garbage truck. Those images stick with people. Yes, the guy has a penthouse suite in Trump Tower. Yes, he owns Mar-a-Lago. But still, he's able to connect with people because he understands that a lot of folks in this country, a lot of hardworking folks,
sorry, I'm interrupting you here,
but there
is some important information which is coming in at this moment. Donald Trump, in fact, the Republicans had taken the swing state of North Carolina, though it was expected, but one of the swing states has been called, and it has been called in favor of Donald Trump and the Republicans. So at this moment, where we stand, 230 is playing 179 out of the Electoral College votes that have been counted so far. So Donald Trump looks in the lead at this moment. There are still 6 more swing states that are possibly going to decide which way does this election go. All right, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us at this moment. We'll have to slip into a very, very short break, ladies and gentlemen. What
the question being, can Kamala Harris catch up at the moment?
Can she catch up? Now, that's the big question. Parmeshwar and I will keep coming back to you along with our team and give you the latest updates here on NDTV World. Stay tuned.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने.
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
AI is going to be one of the most important, drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने।
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
AI is going to be one of the most important, drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
सर सबसे ज़्यादा ब्लॉकबस्टर फिल्में डिलीवर करी अमिताभ बच्चन के साथ में, और आप लोगों की जोड़ी टूटने का एक असर अमिताभ बच्चन जी पे भी जरूर पड़ा होगा।
जरूर पड़ा होगा, उनको इस बात का अफसोस हुआ होगा कि
कभी बात हुई उनकी आपकी इस सिलसिले में?
नहीं, मैं अगर होता उनकी जगह और जैसे जावेद साहब गए या मैं गया तो उनको यही राय देता है कि मत छोड़ो, अच्छा खासा तुम्हारी एक जोड़ी है, वो काम कर रही है, अच्छा खासा चल रहा है, काय के लिए इसको तोड़ते हो। तो मैं होता तो ये करता, समझे?
तो फिर आप उनकी बात सुन लेते और उसका फिर जोड़ी वापस आ जाती?
नहीं, जोड़ी वापस नहीं आती, बस ज़रूरत ही नहीं काम करने की, ये तोड़ने की, करते रहो। तो अगर मैं होता तो ये राय देता, पता नहीं उन्होंने क्या राय दी है वो।
पर आपकी बात हुई कभी उनसे इस सिलसिले में?
नहीं, बात तो होती रहती है, मुलाकात हो जाती है तो। मगर वैसे वो ज़्यादा सख्ती से बात करते भी नहीं हैं।
अपने में रहने वाले
अपने वो ज़्यादा किसी के करीब आते नहीं है, वो
अपने में ही रहने वाले रिजर्व आदमी। और बाकी जो इंडस्ट्री थी, जब आप लोग हटे, आप लोगों की जोड़ी हटी, तो बाकी इंडस्ट्री का क्या रिएक्शन था उस समय? उसके बाद
कुछ लोग तो खुश होते हैं कि अच्छा हुआ, कुछ लोगों को तकलीफ होती है, अलग अलग लोगों के व्यूज़ होते हैं, अलग अलग लोगों के साथ। तो
पर आपने उसके बाद लोगों को बदलते हुए देखा? आप अपना अलग जब काम लेके जाते थे, अकेले जब काम लेके जाते थे, तो उसकी रिसेप्शन किसी अलग तरह
नहीं, तो होता डेफिनेटली था वो।
पीपल वर चेंज्ड।
आप जो नाम का जो वैल्यू जो था,
ब्रांड की जो वैल्यू थी।
हाँ, अभी अगर आप कोई कहे दादाजी, तो कौन सा दादाजी? दादाजी धाकजी से बन सकता है। महेंद्र, कौन महेंद्र? महेंद्र एंड महेंद्र। हाँ, तो नाम के पैसे मिलते थे। अभी भी अगर वो वापस आएगा नाम के सरी में जावे, तो उसका वैल्यू होगा, डेफिनेटली होगा।
तो क्यों नहीं एक फिल्म बना लीजिए?
हाँ, तो बनाने का इरादा है।
हाँ, very nice. So we can break some news to our viewers that Salim Javed will be returning very soon.
Come back.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Welcome, you're watching the non-stop and mega coverage of US elections only on NDTV. The most precise analysis, the fastest updates that you can trust and rely on. And right now it is a very razor-thin lead for Donald Trump. But what will happen? The key swing states decide. But before that, now let's take a look at the top headlines that we're tracking here at this hour. Razor-thin lead for Donald Trump as results start pouring in for the next US president. However, swing states hold key to the final results. Parliamentary panel on external affairs headed by Congress MP Shashi Tharoor will meet today. Foreign Secretary is likely to brief on India, Canada and China ties. Mysuru Lokayukta police are set to question Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah today in the Muda case. After Mahayuti, now MVA to release poll guarantees for Maharashtra. Congress MP Rahul Gandhi along with Mallikarjun Kharge will be in Maharashtra to launch the MVA poll manifesto. Delhi continues to reel under, and before that there are a third of Ranthambore missing tigers who have been identified now. Rajasthan government is swinging into action and setting up a probe committee. Delhi continues to reel under toxic air. Air quality index hits 400 at several locations in the national capital region. Popular folk singer and Padma Bhushan awardee Sharda Sinha dies at the age of 72. Prime Minister Narendra Modi expresses condolences for the voice of Chhat. And starting the bulletin with our top focus here at NDTV right now, Mysuru Lokayukta police are all set to question Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah today in the Muda case. His kin, including his wife, have already been interrogated by the investigating officers. This is, remember, the first time Mr. Siddaramaiah will be questioned in the case. He is scheduled to appear anytime soon now. The Chief Minister is confronted with several issues from Muda to Waqf ahead of the impending by-election in 3 important constituencies in rural Karnataka. And to understand more on this, my colleague Pratibha Raman, who has been tracking this story from day one, is joining me live. Pratibha, Karnataka Chief Minister, who has called the whole Muda scam a political vendetta, is set to appear before the Lokayukta. Take us to the latest political developments.
That's right, today seems to be extremely crucial, mainly because this is the first time that Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah will be interrogated in the Muda scam, and he is scheduled to appear before the Karnataka Mysuru Lokayukta officials today. Remember, it is the Lokayukta that is the investigating agency, and we are right here next to the Mysuru Lokayukta office, where a lot of security that has been tightened in and around this region for the arrival of Chief Minister Siddaramaiah there. And like you already mentioned, this comes at a crucial time when there is impending by-election to 3 important constituencies in rural Karnataka, and he has been enveloped in charges and controversies like the Muda allegations, #1 to start with, and then you have the Waqf controversy. While all this battle is on, Siddaramaiah is scheduled to appear here at the Karnataka Mysuru Lokayukta office, where he will be interrogated into the Muda allegations there. Remember, his kin have already been interrogated by the Lokayukta officials, including his wife on October 25th, where she had to answer all the questions that were posed by the investigating officers there. And the Karnataka High Court as well has asked the Karnataka Lokayukta officials to submit its report by November 25th, and November 26th is when the case has been adjourned adjourned, where they've been hearing the plea with respect to transferring the case to the CBI. All eyes are on how this investigation will take shape and how this will affect the political career of Mr. Siddaramaiah. Back to you.
And Pratibha, it's not just the Lokayukta. In fact, the Enforcement Directorate has also filed a money laundering case against Siddaramaiah and others. So it's just not the Lokayukta, but several other probe agencies are tracking Mr. Siddaramaiah, who is facing heat in the Muda scam.
That's right. It's a two-pronged attack on Siddaramaiah as far as the Muda scam is concerned. One, like you mentioned, is the ED that is also investigating the money laundering aspect, because they have been claiming that there are financial transactions. The opposition as well that has been talking about how the entire scam amounts to at least around 5,000 crore rupees. And on the other hand, you have the Lokayukta that has been entrusted with investigating the entire Muda scam. Several of the officials from the Muda have already been interrogated as well as raided by both the agencies. One is the Lokayukta and the other is the ED. The ED has been raiding several residences as well as offices of those officials related to Muda, the existing ones as well as the former ones, including some of the builders as well as other beneficiaries who have been given the sites as compensation for the land that has been usurped by Muda for development of layouts. These are all ongoing investigations that are currently underway, and we'll have to wait to see how both these investigating agencies, when the investigation would be completed, what kind of details would emerge and how would that implicate or give a sigh of relief for Siddaramaiah in the Muda case.
Absolutely, and all eyes will be on the questioning that will take place shortly, anytime now. Thank you so much, Pratibha, for joining me at this hour. Now, the Maharashtra elections appear close, complex and chaotic. Well, 2 days before Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in the state to address his first two public meetings in the state, Rahul Gandhi, the leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, will be there to launch the Mahavikas Aghadi's poll campaign along with other senior Congress leaders and the alliance partners. However, UBT has unveiled 5 poll promises. Shiv Sena chief Uddhav Thackeray has said that if MVA formed government in the state again, it would ensure that prices of 5 essential food items remain, including sugar, pulses and grain, are kept under check. Uddhav's poll promises came hours after Maharashtra Chief Minister Mr. Eknath Shinde announced Mahayuti's 10 poll promises, vowed hiked support of poor, women, pensioners and farmers. My colleague Radhika Ramaswamy, who is tracking the poll pulse in Maharashtra, is joining me at this hour. Thank you so much, Radhika, for joining me. Take us through the likely poll promises of the Mahavikas Aghadi that will be unveiled today.
You know, as far as Mahavikas Aghadi, or for that matter Mahayuti, is concerned, we've been seeing campaigns are picking up steam in the state of Maharashtra, and very importantly, a lot of poll guarantees, promises and SOPs and schemes being promised by both Mahayuti as well as MVA. Yes, as you mentioned, Uddhav Thackeray yesterday announced a bunch of 5 promises, including free education for girls and boys, affordable homes to residents, recruitment of women cops, and as you mentioned, stability in terms of prices of essential commodities. Besides that, Mahayuti, Eknath Shinde also in his campaign rally in Kolhapur promised 10 SOPs, which again include farm loan waiver, increased monthly support for women, more pension support for senior citizens and so on. So SOPs being promised in many of these campaign rallies, but very importantly, as you mentioned, Rahul Gandhi will be in Maharashtra today. He is going to be in Nagpur to attend a Constitution Sammelan, after which he will be in Mumbai, where he will hold a public rally along with several senior leaders. Mallikarjun Kharge will be present. Apart from that, of course, all the top Congress as well as UBT Sena and NCP Sharad Pawar leaders will be present, where there will be a comprehensive presentation of poll promises as far as MVA is concerned, which includes farm loan waiver, which already is being promised by UBT, by Uddhav Thackeray himself yesterday, and besides that, an assurance of a caste-based census and a counter to Ladli.
Good morning and welcome everybody. It's an exciting day. Or good evening if you're in the United States, because we are broadcasting to the US and indeed around the world. At this stage, as far as the US election results are concerned, it does look as if it's going to be a Republican victory. I was hedging what I was saying, and I was being cautious over the last couple of hours, saying that, look, you know, the swing states, these aren't results as yet, these are just leads. The voting, the counting percentage is actually quite low, but that's all changed now. because the percentage of votes in the swing states, there are 7 swing states, is fairly robust. And on the basis of the leads that we are seeing of the Republicans in these swing states, it does appear that Donald Trump is fairly comfortably ahead at this stage. For Kamala Harris and the Democrats to win from here on would need a switch of some of the Republican bastions. Now, nobody's really talking about that. But first, before that, Parmeshwar, you've got the headlines for us.
Let's take you to the top stories we're tracking. Early trends indicate that Trump leads with 214 electoral votes. Meanwhile, CNN projects that Harris has won California. As the Trump victory becomes more likely by each passing moment, Elon Musk posts game, set and match on his X social media account.
So, Parmeshwar, Elon Musk on Twitter, now called X, said game, set and match. So that's a pretty powerful course. But
you know what he has in common with Donald Trump, though?
What?
Both of them love attention.
Yeah, well, they may be both right on this occasion. That's where it's all headed. So why don't we bring up that big screen graphic of the swing states since we are talking about it. Remember, in a winner-takes-all system, which is what the US elections are all about, if the Democrats hold on to their bastion, which they are doing, if the Republicans hold on to their bastion, which they are doing, then it is these 7 swing states which are so important. So we've got these up on the screen right now. The states which are in yellow are the swing states where the results are still not out. North Carolina, there is a result in one of these swing states, and that has gone to the Republicans. So that's bad news for Kamala Harris. Now, let's just look at the numbers on the right-hand side of your screen. Arizona, 49.5% of the votes have gone to the Democrats, 49.6%. So neck and neck to the Republicans. Georgia has gone at this juncture more than 50% to the Republicans. Michigan, the Democrats are doing quite well over here. Nevada, nothing so far. Let's bring the next page out and take a look at what's taking place. That'll be up in just a moment.
But Michigan also, we must inform our viewers
North
that only
Carolina has gone to the
45% of the votes
Republicans.
been counted.
Pennsylvania likely going to the Republicans. Wisconsin likely going to the Republicans. Now, why are we saying going, or it's still early days? Because I've got the data on the percentage of votes in. So just in the case of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina, Wisconsin, there are 66% of the votes in. Pennsylvania, 66%. North Carolina, 89%. So North Carolina, on the basis of this, has gone to the Republicans, which is why it's red on our screen. Let's go back to the previous page for a moment, just so that I can make the point that, you know, what we are seeing is significant, because in the case of Nevada, it's not started as yet in terms of counting numbers. You know, it's disastrous for the Republicans in Michigan, and in Michigan, 45% of the votes have come in so far. Georgia, 91%. So with 91%, it's clearly going towards, it's not been declared yet, to the Republicans. And Arizona with 49.5% to Democrats, 49.6% to Republicans, 51% of votes having been counted. It is absolutely neck and neck over there. So that's what's going to, so in all of the other states, I mean, it's on expected lines, right?
Yes, so far, except Iowa.
All right, well, let's just go straight across to NDTV's Natasha Israni, joins us from Philadelphia. But Natasha, let me come across to you first. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, all absolutely fascinating. Give us an idea of what's taking place in the state that you're covering.
Yes, yes. This is such a huge prize in the swing states, and we were earlier seeing a lead for Kamala Harris, and now that's changing towards the Trump side, which has made this particular room where I am at in very, very happy. There's been a lot of cheering as the map behind them becomes increasingly more red, and the Republicans here feeling very confident at the moment. And we are joined now by Matt Lamagese, who we also spoke with yesterday. He's the chairman of the Young Republicans of Philadelphia. Tell us, Matt, how are you feeling as you look at these numbers?
We're ecstatic. We couldn't be happier. Pennsylvania's looking great. It hasn't been called yet, but the numbers are looking very good. We think that the Democrats here in Philadelphia overstated the vote. That never materialized. Trump is ahead. Dave McCormick, our Senate candidate, is ahead. We've got a string of victories imminent in the Northeast Philadelphia area at the state level. We couldn't be happier.
Now, what do you think? Pennsylvania, last time went to Joe Biden, even though it went by a small percentage, it did go to Joe Biden. So what is changing? And we know it's not yet called, but what is changing to see the margins become so close and with Trump now leading?
Well, it's a very different place than 4 years ago. Look, 4 years ago it was a single issue. It was a referendum on the handling of the COVID-19 crisis. Right now, we're weaker abroad. We've got illegal immigrants pouring across our southern borders. We've got rampant inflation due to the inherently inflationary policies of the Biden-Harris administration. People, as I mentioned yesterday, right, young people, but all people really, they're paying an extra 20% tax effectively as a result of inflation. So the fact that, everything had fell apart, during their administration, it's a reaction to that, right?
On the whole, though, yes, there's been inflation, but when it came to unemployment numbers, there was a lot of progress under the Biden administration, but because unemployment is certainly down, and it's certainly down than what it was soon after the pandemic.
Well, look, if you're going to compare pandemic, where they shut down the economy and they, furloughed people across the nation, of course, but that doesn't mean people are happy. Look, in World War II, remember, they say World War II got us out of the Great Depression. Well, that was true in terms of economic data, but that didn't mean people were happy on the ground in their day-to-day lives. And it's a situation like that where, okay, coming off of this huge event, a man-made event, by the way, coming off of that...
We don't know that for sure.
Well, we do know that they shut down the economy. Absolutely, that was man-made. So, they shut down the economy. They furloughed all these people. Well, yeah, as you come back online, you have that. But they made a lot of bad decisions since then. And this is a referendum on that.
A lot is said about immigration time and time again, but at the same time, a lot of what is said is also very ugly rhetoric, because this country ultimately is formed of immigrants, the Irish, the Italians. It's basically a country of immigrants. To say that one kind of immigrant is bigger or greater or nicer than the other kind of immigrant is a problem for a huge population here in the United States. How do you respond to it?
Well, look, it's very easy, actually, right? There is one type of immigrant that's good, legal immigrants. Nobody's saying that legal immigrants shouldn't come. What we're saying is you need to respect the laws of this country, and you need to come into this country by, through the process. You need to come in, you need to follow the process, and then, get a visa, get a green card, whatever you have to do, follow that process and do it legally.
Understood. That when Donald Trump talks about deporting millions of people, that's likely to cost billions of dollars, according to some organizations. How is that even possible or likely? How will he carry it out?
Well, look, logistically, I don't know how that's going to work. There's smarter minds than me that will be assessing that and developing a plan to handle it properly. What I will say is, I'm sure the president has a plan as to how he wants to do it, but look, this is creating a major burden on the system here. The people who are here, who are not paying into it, and who are, you look at the billions of dollars, up in New York, you see Eric Adams spoke out about this, the cost that New York suffered, as a result of housing all of these people. And they're not alone in that. So there's a cost for keeping them, there's a cost for attempting to deport them.
Right, Matt, they're talking about all the various issues at play here and also explaining some perspective on why you are seeing that map turn red and the issues that reach out to a lot of voters who feel left out. We spoke earlier to a young American man who said that he felt like he was a minority because nobody was catering to his needs and the fact that he can't afford housing or his grocery bills. So at the moment, at the Donald Trump party, a lot of happiness because they're feeling that they do have a path to victory, though it's too early in the night to confirm that for Pennsylvania or for the country.
Right, Natasha, 66% votes have been counted in Pennsylvania. And as you know, Pennsylvania has 19 electors. But also joining us at the moment, Gauri Dwivedi from Howard University. Gauri, North Carolina has gone to Donald Trump. As we have been able to see, North Carolina has 16 electors. Meanwhile, Virginia has been given to Kamala Harris now with 13 electors.
Yes, indeed, Parmeshwar. The fact is that North Carolina was a very important state that has gone to Donald Trump, and that in fact does make Kamala Harris's road to 270 tough, given the fact that Trump is also leading in several other swing states, including Pennsylvania. The last 45 minutes, as some of this changed, I did speak to a bunch of people who are now coming out of that watch party. There's still a lot of band and all that playing, but there's a steady stream of people who are now walking out of that election party, indicative of the fact that things are not looking, well, one can't say not good, but definitely they are not looking promising right now, given that Donald Trump is leading in critical swing states and has won two important ones, North Carolina being one, and Iowa also, against what many believe was a prediction that he may not be able to get Iowa as well. So in the backdrop of that, all I can say is, as of now, things look difficult right now for Kamala Harris. Another thing, I spoke to several people here. They said that the mood coming in from some of the core people in Kamala Harris's team is that it's about 4 hours away right now before you can actually get a clear verdict right now. It's 11:30 here. So they were expecting, it's actually closer to 12 here, they're expecting that about 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning is when the verdict will come out.
Also, Gauri, as we speak, Kamala Harris has now crossed the 200 mark.
Yes, indeed. So that is also on the back of some of those big states that were expected to go in her kitty, her home state, 54. The moment that came in, of course, it changed her kitty completely. It was expected. It was expected that she's going to win her home state very easily. She has done so. But it all boils down to those 3-4 critical states, especially after losing North Carolina and Iowa. It comes down to Georgia. It comes down to Pennsylvania and a couple of other states, which is, as many believe, is likely to be decided in the next 3 to 4 hours.
Right, let's go straight across to Alex Tarasio, who joins us at this stage. Alex, what is interesting is that Kamala Harris has crossed 200. She's at 205 right now. The Republicans at 230. But the chance of the Republicans winning at this stage seems to be rising really, really quickly with the swing state results and leads coming in with a robust number of votes in. It appears that in at least 3 or 4 states, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Georgia, right? And it's neck and neck in Arizona. The Republicans, by and large, seem to be ahead. Would that be your sense as well?
I'd go a little bit farther. I think that every indication of where this election is going to go is going in Republicans' favor right now. I've been looking for trends that are going the other way. I've texted and talked to Democratic friends and Democratic pollsters, asking them for what the good news is for Kamala Harris, and I'm just not seeing it. There are Republican counties all across the country that are overperforming, rural counties, Miami-Dade County in Florida, places where Republicans were not expected to do as well. They are exceeding their 2020 numbers, which was the highest turnout election in history. And across the board, Kamala Harris is underperforming where Joe Biden was in counties that she needs to win by between 2 points and 4 points. And that's what I'm seeing in Pennsylvania. I'm seeing that in Wisconsin. Michigan's a little bit less clear cut. Arizona, I'm not seeing enough of the vote in. I expect that to tighten up very significantly and to ultimately go to the Republicans by potentially rather a lot. But there's a lot of ifs for Kamala Harris, but there's a lot of action going on right now.
Interesting to note though, Vishnu, Michigan, it seemed that voters in Michigan were actually unhappy with both sides of it. What Trump had to offer in terms of the Gaza, Palestine outlook and Ukraine. And they were also quite dissatisfied with Kamala Harris and her team's approach. But interesting to see that the Democrats have a clear edge as far as Michigan is concerned.
It would be difficult for the Republicans to sort of come back in Michigan. They're at 35.5. Are the Republicans to 61.7 for the Democrats with 45% of the votes in. It's a huge state, so Kamala Harris clearly needs that. But everywhere else, she seems to be in trouble. I mean, if you take a look at the swing, it's a swing away versus the 2020 result. Harris at 47.6% is down 3.7. Trump above 50% at this stage. Remember, these are leads, mostly a couple of results here and there, but still some time away. The swing is in favor by a margin of more than 4% to Trump. And so he is favored at this stage quite clearly to win the election. All right, we've got Jennifer joining us as well from Florida. Thanks very much for being with us. Give us a sense of the excitement around you. Trump has done very well in this state. Many thought that the Democrats would put in more of a competition. That didn't turn out to be the case. But it now also seems from the nationwide picture that this could be an election that goes Trump's way. So are people celebrating for Florida, or are they also looking at what's happening around them in other states?
Well, really the key here is that people have started gathering here around the convention center behind me. Now that is where Trump's watch party, official watch party is. President Trump, the former president, is at Mar-a-Lago, his residence about 2.5 miles from here. The fact that people have gathered here means they expect that he is going to make an appearance here at some point. His advisors had said that he wanted to watch returns in a smaller, closer group. We know that J.D. Vance is there, Elon Musk, the SpaceX and ex-entrepreneur is also there at Mar-a-Lago. But people have come here. They've come over here. They're lining the streets here. You can see the flashing lights. Police are everywhere. There is an anticipation that Donald Trump is going to come here at some point. The big question is when, and I think that's what we're all waiting for. When he feels like the victory is imminent or decisive, then we think he will make an appearance here at the Palm Beach Convention Center. Inside are hundreds of journalists from all over the world. The place is ringed with police. There are special fences up. Security very, very tight here in West Palm Beach, and everybody awaiting Donald Trump's arrival.
Just in terms of where you're reporting from Florida with 30 electors and nearly 100% of votes in, the Republicans at 56%. So that's a resounding win, 56.1% for Donald Trump. I'm just curious to know, when does Trump call it his election? I mean, is he going to wait for results, which of course get declared much, much later in the United States system? At what stage does Trump come out and say that, look, I won?
Well, it's really all about the Electoral College. Once he feels like he has a clear path to 270, once he reaches 270, that is when he has actually won. So a decisive victory here in Florida, and it was a decisive victory. He won by 3.4 points in the last election. He won by 13 points in this election. Now, it was expected that he would widen his lead, but as your last guest said, Miami-Dade was a crucial indicator that he is doing well in places where the Democrats had hoped Kamala Harris would do well. Miami-Dade, a large Latino population. He is the first Republican to win that area since 1988, and it seems to be a harbinger for what's happening around the country. But basically, until he sees a path to 270, I don't think he'll make an appearance here.
I wanted to quickly go back to Alex for a moment. Alex, the same question which I was asking Jennifer. At what stage or when exactly do you expect Trump to come out and say that, look, the path is clear to me, I'm going to win these elections? And we don't have him just yet, but what we can do is actually go back to that graphic of the swing states and just bring our viewers, a summary of the situation that we have right now. Let's have that up full screen on full screen. And the Democrats, and this is the only little bit of good news, Parmeshwar, is that they've crossed the 200 mark. It doesn't mean very much. The Republicans' chances of winning are at 62%. The Democrats are just 37%. These are the swing states which are going to make or break the Republicans and Democrats. North Carolina has been called. That's gone to the Republicans. And everywhere else, it's not looking very good for Kamala Harris. If you look at Arizona, it is neck and neck at this stage. Georgia, it seems to have gone to Trump. Michigan, it's going to go Kamala Harris's way quite clearly. Nevada is not in as yet. And then let's go to the next page where we've got North Carolina,
Pennsylvania,
which has again gone to the Republicans. Pennsylvania, it's gone to the Republicans most likely. Wisconsin has gone to the Republicans as well. So if you're looking at 5 states, right?
5 out of the 7.
5 of the 7, or at the bare minimum 4 out of the 7, but likely 5 at least to the Republicans, then it's a done deal. The elections are over, and that's what. And this is the big worry then for the Democrats. What does Kamala Harris have to do, or hope to have achieved from here onwards? With these numbers, it'll be very difficult to overtake the Republicans.
Indeed. In fact, let's take that to our studio guests as well who join us. Ambassador Manjeev Puri, former diplomat, is with us on the broadcast. Also with us, Suresh Goyal, former Indian envoy. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making time for us. Ambassador Puri, to you first. It seems, as per the numbers that are on the screen at the moment, it's Donald Trump's election. We're not calling it yet, but with the early projections, it seems that the numbers are favoring Trump. Everyone has warned. Political analysts, geopolitical watchers have warned that this time, if Trump comes back for term 2.0, he'll come back with less guardrails, perhaps none. What does this mean for us in India?
Parmeshwar, thank you very much. And wearing red, let me endorse what you just said, that it looks his way at the moment. Secondly, migrants has been a big issue here. Let me say something light-hearted to start this bit. Whichever one wins, either the White House or the Blair House has an Indian in it. Feel a little good about it, I say. Migrants matter, they're useful. Talking about guardrails, yes, this is generally the impression of everyone that President Trump, if he comes back, and incidentally, this will be only the second time that such a thing would have happened. I think it's Grover Cleveland, somewhere in the late 1800s when it happened last time, that somebody lost out and then came back. Look, there is this issue of feeling kind of hurt, insulted, left out, what he claims the election that was stolen from him. And so therefore, going after elements of the Democratic Party, all of those things would be there. I think somewhere he mentioned that one of his first acts within the first 20 seconds will be to fire the special prosecutor. So yes, all that will happen. But other than that, when I look at things otherwise, I look at the Donald Trump possibilities as being more a continuation of what happened in the past. There will be transactional stuff. As far as we are concerned, perhaps in India, general feeling is that we may have a little bit more policy space in the matter, be less sort of looking into what's happening inside here. There might be greater support in terms of the issues that we have vis-a-vis China. Maybe on the issues of the environment, fossil fuels, etc., we may have greater space for development where we are facing these problems. So look, India as a country has positioned itself relatively well. We've done well. We have become the 5th largest economy, where we would be a country of interest to everyone. Having said all of this particular thing, I would say that the greatest number of challenges for people outside the United States of America for a Trump presidency would be in Europe. And he has mentioned this last time too, and I'm sure that would continue to be the issue again this particular time. For us, perhaps a little bit more of policy space, but at the end of the day, we are a country that matters, a country that would be of interest to the United States. And for a president where economy is the focus, make more money, etc., there, of course, that doesn't mean it'll all be hunky-dory. Trade, migration, all of those are issues we'll have to contend with.
And you stick by this, knowing that Trump is known to have an isolationist foreign policy approach?
Yes. I completely agree with you. You know, the Democrats over the years have moved towards this hegemonic America, spread the word. That's the kind of thing that they say. Perhaps the world has changed a little bit. And why has it changed fundamentally? We in India like the idea of the rise of the Indo-Pacific. Fundamentally, that means the rise of China, a major challenge. Think about it. The Western world ran the world for a long time with no competition. And now you have a country which is likely to become the largest economy in the world within the next 20, 30 years. So these are challenges. They are challenges which are reflected in the United States. The kind of vote that you've seen Trump gathering right from 2016, what is it? It's, in a sense, I wouldn't say denial of globalization, but certainly the impacts of globalization. We sitting in India are happy with globalization. We've done well. The Chinese are happy. Most people in the developing world are happy. But the old developed world countries, those who benefited by just simply being there, doing their bit, producing the air conditioners and the cars, they want to know what's happened. Okay. Why the challenge? Why the air conditioners are coming from China? Why are the cars coming from somewhere else? What is happening? Why not us? So there is a reaction. And I think you are seeing that over the last so many years.
All right, let's go across to Alistair, who's been tracking the elections very closely indeed. Alistair, thanks very much for being with us. Give us a sense of what's happening around you. Are people willing to accept right now that it's going to be Trump all the way? It just
nice
seems
to see him
that way.
smiling, though, considering the numbers, the dismal numbers so far.
I'm smiling because I'm out here in the cold and we can really feel the chill. And joining me is Kamala Harris supporter, Ajay. Ajay, we've gotten word, as you know, about North Carolina, the Associated Press calling it for Donald Trump. How do you feel?
I'm a little disappointed. I mean, I think we had a good chance, but our margins are close, and you know, the window appears to be closing on the electoral vote side. But hopefully, we can still pull it through. You know.
Okay, so. Sure. Yeah, it's not done. You're saying it's not done. We're still waiting, but it's kind of leaning towards Trump. So we were at a watch party just now, which has kind of wound up. But the watch party for Donald Trump, when this news came in, they were absolutely ecstatic about North Carolina. They were cheering. But here, of course, it doesn't seem to be the case. What do you think went against Kamala Harris?
I think the issue about the economy seems to be more than I expected. You know, he seems to have used that to his advantage. You know, in associating her with Biden. You know.
All right, so you blame Biden for this. So, not sure. I can't hear the studio right now, but I'm going to hand it back to you.
Parmeshwar?
Well, thanks so much for that update, Alistair. We will, of course, revert to Alistair for regular updates. We also have with us at the moment Andrew Latham joining us, Professor of Political Science, International Relations, Regional Conflict and Security, as well as Foreign Policy. Andrew, along expected lines, or would you say that the polls got it slightly wrong? I mean, world over, it's not the best time for incumbent governments, it seems.
I'm not sure the polls got it entirely wrong. It was always going to be tilted in favor of Trump, whether you like it or not. Kamala Harris, I have to say, is an empty pantsuit, and she was never going to sway people. You know, there's the usual things. Minnesota's going the way it does because I live here, and it's going the way it always does. And Texas is going the way it always has. She really wasn't positioned to transform the electoral landscape in the United States. She simply wasn't.
Puneet, let me take that across to you. You'd be very happy with what you're seeing right now. It just seems increasingly unlikely, if not impossible, for Kamala Harris to win from here on. I'm not sure this is going to be a landslide win, but it's not likely at this juncture going to be a narrow win for Trump, it's going to be a fairly significant one.
Yeah, not quite. If you're asking me, not quite.
No, I'm asking Puneet. Go ahead, Puneet.
Not quite a landslide.
Just 1 second, sir. I'm asking the other panelist. Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
As he said, she's an empty suit which was put up or anointed rather than being elected, as President Trump was within the Republican leadership to lead, and especially in the time in the failed presidency of Biden and inherited and the continuation by Kamala Harris with no message, no clarity of what she was going to do, but she was all the time beating up on President Trump with no clear message. And with the economy, inflation, immigration crisis, wars in the Middle East and in Ukraine, and what has happened in Afghanistan, it was a complete failure. And that's the reason what you're seeing today, it shouldn't be a surprise to the folks. We expected a win from President Trump because he stayed on message. And if you started seeing in the last few days of the campaign, he was cruising. Look at the McDonald's, serving fries at McDonald's, or making fries at McDonald's at the same time driving the dump truck. He had it, and visiting the victims of the hurricane, he showed the empathy and the tenaciousness of campaigning. And she only was seen and perceived as an elitist by having Oprah Winfrey and all the rich folks raising money for her with no substance to really give it to the American people. And that's the reason why you see a shift in the Black Americans, the Hispanic Americans, as we've seen in Dade County in Florida, and in the Asian American population.
Okay. Puneet, just bear with me. I've got Ambassador Suresh Goyal with us in the studio. I mean, I'm going to go one step ahead and say that Trump's winning these elections, or if not, that being the case, what does Trump bring to India in terms of foreign policy? Does it really make a difference for us who's in power in the US?
Vishnu, first of all, I don't really think that I can give it away like this, that Trump is winning. I mean, I look at the numbers. It is around 209. Kamala Harris is going ahead. I mean, I know it's an outlier, but it can happen. And I'm keeping my hope. And I'm keeping my hopes up.
Right.
Okay. But coming to the question that you put, if you look at the balance sheet of what Trump and Kamala Harris would mean really, Trump first. Trump is very transactional. Trump's interest really with India is mostly, it's not security or strategy related. He looks at India basically in terms of trade, economic, largest market, how much can USA sell to India, what does India have to offer in return, etc. Please remember last time also when he was the president, he questioned India's trade policies so often. And this time also he has already declared that he would impose double the traffic on Indian goods, etc., etc. That is number one. Number two, China, which is really the dragon in the China shop, particularly next door to us in Indo-Pacific and across our borders. Now, Trump's interest in China is purely trade related. Most of the US companies, they're leaving China, if they want to leave China, they're trying to leave China, but they're not able to leave China basically because of the investment they have done already, the amount of investment. And many of them have already said that they are finding it difficult to leave. iPhone, for example, is finding it difficult to leave, even though they have come to India and they have done some kind of production.
Right.
Now, if that is the case, and suddenly it so happens that China and the USA again begin to look at partners, trade partners, in a more positive way. How does it impact on India? Where does Indo-Pacific go? Because our policies vis-a-vis China have really been pivoted to Indo-Pacific.
Ambassador, just give me half a second. I wanted to go across to Parul Khemka, the New Jersey State Director for South Asians for Harris. Parul, it's not looking good for you now, is it? Do you accept that it's going to be Trump most likely as the president, or do you actually feel that it's still too early to call these elections?
It is too early to call this election right now. We don't even have so many of the urban centers where the long lines existed, where all of those Democratic hubs are. They have not finished counting their votes. So I think we're all jumping the gun. I just want to respond to something that my colleagues here on my sides have said about that Kamala Harris has no plan. I don't know where you're reading this up, but I think the only person who has communicated any kind of policy plans has been Kamala Harris. And I totally agree with Mr. Goyal here, who does say that he has already gone ahead and talked about doubling tariffs for India. He has already gone ahead and said that he's going to be very firm with them. He has, in the past, he has told us and said that there will be repercussions if we don't supply the hydrochloroquine when it was COVID times. So I think it's very important that, as South Asians, as we know that we are also here we're struggling with somebody who has a very strong, vehement opinion and is looking to be just for the nationalist Christians that have interest in the country. So I'm very, I really want to tell you, hold your horses. If there's any Democrat, the one thing that you know is that you have to stay awake way past midnight to really see what's coming down and trickling
But
down.
Parul, I understand your sense that, look, wait, hoping against hope. But let's just look at the percentage of votes in the swing states. Wisconsin 76%, Pennsylvania 66%, North Carolina 92%, Georgia 93%, Arizona 50%. So for Kamala Harris to actually make a comeback in a couple of these states, Wisconsin, for example, where there are 76% of votes in, she'd have to win almost everything of the remaining votes. And that's the case in so many of the other swing states. That seems unlikely.
Here's the thing. One thing that we've seen definitely is there's a big turnout in the rural areas, and that's the area where it's the easiest to count the votes because they're coming in quicker. There are fewer people there. Let's wait and watch. This game is not over until it's over. This game is probably not going to be over until later in the morning.
Okay, some breaking news coming in. Sorry to interrupt. The Republicans, it appears, have taken the Senate. That's some information that we're getting in right now. That's a huge development right now. Puneet, you want to come in over there? A quick comment from you on that?
Yes, we took over West Virginia, and I think we won Nevada. No, I think it was Nebraska. And I think Montana is still in play, and maybe Nevada too. So I think we are doing exceptionally well, and that's the reason our friend says that we don't have a plan. We do have a plan, and we'll hold the House. We'll have taken the control of the Senate, and we will have the White House. So it's a clear win for the Republican Party, but more importantly, it's a clear win for the Americans who believe in individual liberty.
Andrew Latham, could you tell us about the significance? Sorry, Parmeshwar, I know you wanted to jump in.
No problem.
Of the Senate being won by the Republicans.
So, no matter who wins the presidency, this is a country in which there are these checks and balances. And it looks to me like the Republicans are going to take the House, and they're going to take the Senate. And from what I can tell right now, although we have to wait till tomorrow, it looks like they're going to take the presidency as well. I'm not that concerned because I think there are guardrails built into this system. I think there are checks and balances, and I don't think what we saw when Donald Trump was president the last time, he couldn't get away with whatever he wanted to do. There are guardrails, there are checks, there are balances, and whether it doesn't matter who is in the driver's seat, they can't do anything that they want to do just because they want to do it. And this is something I love about the American political system. This is different from the parliamentary system in India, in Canada, in the UK. This is different. There are real guardrails in place to prevent lunatics, if I can put it that way, from doing whatever they want to do.
All right, Puneet has a frown on his face. He has the right to respond to that. Go ahead, Puneet.
The founding fathers were very clear to have the balance of power not in one person's hand, because we have seen lunatics take over and take a democracy into an autocracy, as we have seen other nations. So that's the reason why we have the legislative arm, we have the judicial arm, and we have a very strong leaders in our nation who really love this country and love the individual liberty. And as I said, it's the victory for individual liberty, and we all believe that we have a God-given freedom and rights. So I echo what Andrew was saying.
It's their country. They have a right to look at it. But we saw when there were these kinds of guardrails, Roe v. Wade, and you've seen all those particular results.
And the 3 Supreme Court judges appointed by Donald Trump himself.
Absolutely, Parmeshwar. Look, the thing is, no one says that you can do what you want. That's not the idea. But the question of guardrails is, we are making these judgments in terms of America being the global leader, liberal policies, so many other aspects of those things. Those did take a bit of a backseat. As far as we are concerned in India, perhaps we like the idea of a little bit more policy space to be able to do your own things yourself, to take advantage of the fact that you are a huge and majorly growing economy. So everybody looks at it different. I fully appreciate the perspectives of the colleagues who are sitting there. Each of them come from their own side. But one of the things is, it would appear that, there has been a kind of education divide in terms of what you see. Secondly, in terms of the monies, I'm not talking about the very rich guys with huge capexes from California and what they did, but otherwise the guys who are in business, etc., their understanding and their approach versus professional. So it would seem to me, who has never held a green card, who's only lived in the United States as a diplomat and is an Indian in every sense of the word, stands for India. But, I respect their perspectives.
But Parul, many of Kamala Harris's critics have actually pointed out that she has been salient on issues of economy and inflation. Would you attribute Donald Trump's performance so far, in terms of the numbers that we're seeing, to the fact that Kamala Harris hasn't been crystally clear in terms of disclosing her plan, her agenda?
I just have to say something to this. I feel like she has said a lot about her economic plan. I'm not clear about what you're talking about.
Has she been crystally clear, and has she convinced her voters?
Well, whether you're talking about, you just said she's not crystal clear about her plan. She has been absolutely crystal clear. She's the one who said she has a plan, not a concept of a plan. And, when Donald Trump went out and said, yes, I want to get rid of Obamacare and I want to replace it with something much better. And when he was asked, what's your plan? He said, I have a concept of a plan. Even in terms of economy, she has clearly been stating what her plan is. Those plans have been communicated plenty of times.
All right, I just give me half a second, Andrew Latham. If we look at the larger picture right now, the Senate is gone to the Republicans. The Congress would likely be retained by the Democrats. The White House is headed towards the Republicans, who already have a big say in terms of control of the Supreme Court. Which way is America headed?
Well, it's headed in a very Republican, Trumpian direction. And I'm not sure that that's a bad thing. Again, I come back to guardrails. These Trump, J.D. Vance and Trump, and they can't do whatever they want. At the end of the day, there are these guardrails in place that this is a very resilient...
Andrew, we are talking about guardrails even before he's won the election. I mean, I hear your sense of foreboding. I hear your sense of worry loud and clear that, oh my God, let's just hope things aren't as bad as they can be.
Well, no, that's not where I was going. I was going to make a point about resilience. The American political system is very resilient. This is not Italy in 1920 with Mussolini coming to power, and it's not Nazi Germany in 1933. This is a very resilient democracy, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day whether Kamala Harris or Donald Trump or Andrew Latham is elected. It really doesn't matter, because there's only so much that you can do. You can push things in this direction, you can push things in that direction, but you can't. The nonsense talk about fascism, I've taught courses on fascism for 30 years. The nonsense talk about that F word that has permeated the American political discourse for the last little bit is, I'm just going to say silly. I could say stupid, but it's just nonsensical.
All right.
This is not Italy in 1925.
Okay. I get the point that you're making, that there are enough checks and balances. Ambassador Goel, before we go to a break, again, what would this mean for India with Trump likely headed to the White House? We do know that there is a good equation with Trump and Prime Minister Modi. We both have concerns over China. There is a deep technology investment from India and America in India as well. Do you see this relationship just going up and up?
You know, Vishnu, I mean, we are here at the moment talking about the US elections, because even though it's an election in the USA,
it's an election around the world,
it really should matter to the Americans as to who they elect. But we are all sitting here like the other places around the world, wondering as to who is going to come there, because American president is the one who impacts not just on America or one country, he impacts on the entire globe. And not therefore, when you talk about India versus the USA, the relationship, I've already spoken about the bilateral part of it really. I don't think that we can be very comfortable with the transactional president, and I'm being very, very moved here in that sense, that we will have to watch what his mood is like. He's very, very volatile. He could be very unpredictable from time to time. Right. But the point really here is that our future, or what our policy space, as Manjeev said so often, will depend not only what USA and India are, but what happens in Europe, what happens in Middle East. Now, if Trump's policies are going to impact on the Middle East the way I look at it, I think there is a lot of risk factor there.
Okay, let me interrupt you there. I do need to take a short break at this stage, come back to the very latest. It is headed towards the Republican camp. Donald Trump does seem to be headed back to the White House. We aren't calling it just yet, but for the Democrats to actually win from here on, that seems difficult. Live images from a Harris campaign rally to the left of your screen, a Trump campaign rally to the right. We expect both leaders to be there soon. Will Harris at some stage concede defeat? We don't know. I think she'd still be waiting. But now with substantial percentage of votes in the swing states, it looks very difficult for the Democrats. We'll be back in a moment.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने.
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
AI is going to be one of the most important drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV summit outlined his vision for the India century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने.
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
AI is going to be one of the most important, drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
Seat to democracy in action.
Good morning and welcome. If you're here in India or in Asia, in the United States, good evening. We are broadcasting all over the world. And we can tell you it's a fantastic election draw in the United States. It does appear that Donald Trump is increasingly likely to become President of the United States. Still a couple of riders which do need to be issued. It's not over until it's well and truly over. But the reason why we do say that Trump seems to be decisively ahead at this stage is because in the swing states, in at least 4 swing states, which will be the make or break states in the United States, the Republicans appear to be ahead. So we'll talk about those swing states in a little while from now. I'm also joined by my colleague Gauri Dwivedi. Gauri, thanks very much for being with us. I think the question that really does need to be asked is, for the Democrats to win from here onwards, what would they need to pull off?
They would need to pull off very sizable victories. But the important bit, Vishnu, is as you pointed out, it's a fascinating election because the moment you slice and dice the data, Kamala Harris has not been able to hold on to Joe Biden's victories in 2020. She's trailing Joe Biden in almost all of the states, which is why the numbers as they are looking right now, one can go back and forth given how the leads are. But some of the data seems to suggest that she's a 2-1-6 because she's not been able to hold on to Joe Biden's gains. You take Georgia, which he won by a very slim margin. You take North Carolina, which of course has gone to Trump as well. Now, all those victories were for Joe Biden, which of course Kamala Harris was not able to retain. Pennsylvania is still up for grabs. Let's see whether Pennsylvania can really change Kamala Harris's fortunes right now, given the fact that Donald Trump is in fact leading in several of those counties. Some counties there's been a delay. There's some paper there. In fact, hand counting is going on, so it may delay the process. But what it looks like is that as of now, it's a really uphill task. And that's the reason why, Vishnu, let me show you right behind me is Kamala Harris's
Let's go full frame
party
across
at Howard. And you can see almost a very empty corridor right behind me. Most folks have actually walked out. What they wanted was a victory speech right now. Looks unlikely at this stage.
I'm just going to go through a couple of the numbers as well. Gauri, be with me. Now, in terms of the overall national situation in the United States, let's have that full screen graphic up if we can. So far, we're looking at 440 or 538 seats in terms of leads and results. In that, the Democrats have won 210, the Republicans have won 230, as you see on your screen. At this rate, the Republicans have a chance of winning of 60%. That's very considerable. The Democrats at 39%. Now, again, just going through this data a little bit more closely, and if we can just have the other map up, the full screen map of the traditional states which go to the Democrats, the swing states, and those states which go to the Republicans. Let's have the other map up. Then what the key point is, okay, so this is swing states. I'm just going to walk across to the swing states to give you an idea of what exactly it is that we are talking about over here. And the point is this. All of these are swing states. Now, this is absolutely critical because there are bastions in the United States which are Republican and which are Democrat. We'll try and have that map up in a little while from now as well. But these are the swing states that we see, states which could actually go either way. In that, North Carolina is already out as a result, and that's gone, as you can see, in red, so that's gone to the Republicans. Now, these numbers that you see over here are important because the numbers actually show the vote percentage in each of these states. So in the case of North Carolina that you see over here, given the percentage of votes which have been counted so far, the Republicans have won in North Carolina. Pennsylvania, that is so very important. 50.7% of of the votes so far have gone to the Republicans, 48.3%. But there is still hope that places like Philadelphia, urban areas where there's a little bit more of the counting still to happen, Kamala Harris might catch up. But Pennsylvania, in a sense, a bellwether. And if the Democrats aren't doing well over here, it's going to be very difficult for them going forward. Let's take a look at the chances of winning graphic at this stage. The bigger picture, and it's Donald Trump at 60%, it's Kamala Harris at 39%. And if we can just have the overall map also, which shows the Republican strongholds, the Democrat strongholds, and the swing states, I'll just explain to our viewers what exactly it is that we are talking about. Not this, talking about the other large map showing all the strongholds. We'll change that, come to that in a while. But these are the states in blue where the Democrats have done well. Most of these are bastions of the Democrats in blue. They were expected to win over here. In fact, it's because the Republicans and in the areas marked red are expected to do well, and in blue that the Democrats are expected to do well, that it's just the swing states that make the big difference. Let's go back to Gauri Dwivedi at this stage. Gauri, give us again a sense of what would happen next. When would we be potentially at a stage when Trump comes and says that, look, I've won the election, or when would we be at a stage when Kamala actually concedes, or is there a sense that, look, wait, there's still a long way to go?
Well, it's difficult to say whether there's still a long way to go, but what one can put out from an electoral math point of view, Vishnu, is that if Kamala were to win, let's say Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and hold on to some of the other gains, then there is a possibility that some of this gap can be reduced. Having said that, the other important bit about Pennsylvania, I want to say, I was just going through some of the data. Parts of Pennsylvania, particularly Philadelphia, is very deeply, it has a huge representation of the African American community, 43%. But the data in Georgia is an eye-opener for the Harris campaign. 6% of the black male population in Georgia voted for Donald Trump. And if that is an indicator, then that tells you that even in a bellwether city like Philadelphia, which is so heavily there's a huge concentration of black American votes, and Pennsylvania being a bellwether state, it may not be so easy for the Harris campaign to translate traditional Democrat strongholds into electoral college votes because of how Georgian black American male voters have voted. That's an indication of why this election has been so tough to call out. But at this stage, we probably need to wait for about 2 hours more, then we can finally call and decide who and know who will be the next president of the United States.
Now that's important. Now this is the map which I was referring to, and let's just take a look at this. Now it's a winner-take-all system in the US elections, which is why you've got a number underneath each state. The blue states are traditional bastions of the Democrats. The red states are traditional bastions of the Republicans. The states which are marked in yellow are swing states. We've been focusing extensively on that. Now, in a winner-takes-all system, if I just come up over here and try and explain to our viewers what it is that we are talking about, if you take a look at the state of California, you've got, and this has gone to Kamala Harris, incidentally, as expected, there are 54 electoral seats. The target for whoever wins the election in the US is 270, so 54 of the 270 has already gone to Kamala Harris. However, in many of the other states, and wherever the results and the leads have come in, it does appear that Trump is ahead. For example, in Texas, that of course is an old stronghold of his, that's gone to him. Florida as well has gone to the Trump camp. Those are among states which he's expected to win. But it's the ones which are in yellow which could go either way, right? Which is where Trump now appears to be doing well. So even if all the traditional blue strongholds are held by the Democrats and the Republicans hold all the red, and as I mentioned, each state has a certain number of electoral seats, so those all add up to that 270 magic mark. The total number, of course, is 538 in the US. It's these yellow states, when you start adding them up, Wisconsin 10, Michigan 15, Pennsylvania 19, North Carolina 16, and other states as well, Georgia 16, Arizona 11, Nevada 6. When you start adding these up, these electoral seats, who gets those? That's going to make that key difference. All right, Trump has won Georgia at this stage as well. So there's a change over here. This should be marked in red. It will be in a little while from now. So that's what the overall picture is in the US elections in terms of the Electoral College and what we are seeing over there. But let's give you the bigger picture now. The overall numbers that we have in terms of Trump and of Harris. Trump has a 60% chance at this stage of going to the White House. Kamala Harris at under 40%. There are 538 seats, as we have mentioned so far. So far, we've got 440 of those 538 results or leads which have been declared. The Democrats are at 210, which they've got leads or results in, and the Republicans at 230. So at this juncture, it appears that those swing states are absolutely critical. But as you can see, it's going to be difficult for Kamala Harris to actually pull ahead from here. The only way it does appear that the Democrats might win this election is if they do dramatically well in the swing states. Now, that depends entirely on the percentage of votes in. In the case of Arizona, 50% of states, of the 50% of votes in have been counted. It's neck and neck over there. Kamala Harris would need to win all of the other votes, essentially, which come in. In Georgia, it's gone to the Republicans so far with 93% done, or percentage of votes in. It seems very difficult for her to be able to reverse that. We've got J.D. Vance now, the running mate of Donald Trump, who's going to be coming out and speaking, and we do expect a very clear signal from him, an indicator of where the Republicans actually see this election going. And I would suggest that we are increasingly moving to a situation when the Republicans may be starting out with celebrations, all right? Alexander Braun, who's been a pollster looking at all of these numbers, it was meant to be really close. Is there a possibility, Alexander, of that taking place? Or on the basis of what you're seeing, do you believe that it's going to be a simple victory for Donald Trump?
I don't think so. I think this is still way too early to call. The trends have definitely been going in Donald Trump's way over the past couple hours, but it's not done in any way. There's still what's called the blue wall, which is the northern 3 or 4 states from Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan to Pennsylvania that traditionally vote for Democrats, although they are swing states, and they have not been called yet. Kamala Harris needs to win them all at this point, which is not an easy task, but it is still possible. But all eyes are on Pennsylvania right now. We will see the late-breaking Philadelphia votes coming in about now. And then we also have the mail-in ballots. A lot of people now mail in their ballots, and those get counted late, especially in a state like Pennsylvania, when they can only start counting them today. And that's a pretty long, laborious process. So we have to watch Pennsylvania, and that'll be the key deciding state.
Let's talk about Pennsylvania. 19 electors, so absolutely important for both camps. 66% of votes are in right now. The Republicans are at 50.7, the Democrats at 48.3. Even with the remaining 56 percent of votes which still need to be counted. For Kamala Harris to pull ahead of the Republicans would need a fair amount of work. So it's not going to be easy. But the assumption is that urban areas where the Democrats are stronger is where she might pick up steam. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. It's also areas that have the larger non-white population that typically breaks for Democrats, although Donald Trump has been trying to make inroads, especially among men. And these districts get counted the last because they're the largest districts or precincts in the state, and it just simply takes longer to count them. And therefore, we're gonna see the remaining votes that are being counted favor Democrats. Whether it's going to be enough, we will see. Pardon me. And but Pennsylvania is also interesting again in the sense that the mail-in ballots get counted even after the most of the in-person votes are counted. Again, there's a presumption that they will favor Democrats, maybe not by much, but at least by some. And so at no point I would think that it's possible to call Pennsylvania at this point.
All right, let's go across now to Florida. We've got my colleague Jennifer Glass who joins us. Give us a sense of what's happening around you. I can see lots of lights behind you. Are those police cars? I believe you're not too far from Mar-a-Lago, where Donald Trump is with Elon Musk right now. Are we getting close to a stage when he might actually come out and say a few words?
Well, this is the convention center right here. This is where Donald Trump is expected to address the public. We understand that they are moving people from Mar-a-Lago here. We've seen 2 motorcades come here so far. There was a helicopter overhead, so that might have been J.D. Vance when they moved him from the convention center back to Mar-a-Lago earlier today. That was the formation that they used. So we are expecting Donald Trump to speak from here at some points, but as the point has been made, many of the swing states have not yet been called. I think until he feels he has a very clear path to 270 or a clincher on 270, he may wait. But we do understand that folks from Mar-a-Lago, about 2.5 miles that way, are heading here to the convention center ahead of Trump's speech. There's been a real sense of excitement here. People have been lining the streets here. People were behind me just a few minutes ago with Trump flags. The motorcades went in just over there. As you can see, there are security fences all around the convention center, but traffic is flowing pretty freely. A huge security presence here, though. They have shut down streets here and there. They shut down the roads when the convoys make a move. But very much excitement among Trump supporters here today. They've gathered here in large numbers. They were lining the street earlier, and you can see some of them now moving out because all the action's going to move inside.
All right, let's go across to Natasha Israni joining us now from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Natasha, look, at this stage, it's all about, well, it's almost all about Pennsylvania at this stage. 50.7 to the Republicans, 48.3 to the Democrats, 66% of votes which have come in. So my question is actually about votes which are still to come in terms of being counted. Is that in urban centers? And traditionally, is that a Democrat stronghold?
Well, the remaining votes are actually not only from the urban centers, they're from all over the state, and they would include rural areas as well as small towns and villages. So really, it's very difficult to predict how that will go because it's going to be a mix of different factors. But it is narrowing and it is becoming more difficult for Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania, but it's not over yet. So you're right, Pennsylvania with its 19 electoral college votes still being watched keenly. And now we are joined by actually a young Republican woman. She's actually a lawyer, and she's been here all this night at the Republican watch party. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling better than I did when I first came to the watch party. I think you've seen a gradual increase in morale, as well as some of the statistics that are coming out now and the votes that are coming out now. So I think it's progressively gotten a lot more positive.
Now, this is a very close race, but in Pennsylvania, earlier in the polls, you were seeing Kamala Harris a little ahead. It wasn't a guarantee, but she was ahead. What do you think is changing? What are the factors? What appeals to you as well about Donald Trump and what he promises?
I think for Pennsylvania, there are a lot of different issues that are on the table for different demographics of people, and obviously everybody votes for the issues that are within their interests. For Pennsylvania, I think a big issue was fracking, and so both of the candidates went back and forth on that issue. But for me personally, I think it was just a matter of looking at the governing of both parties. We've seen Kamala Harris and the Biden administration, and they're governing, and we've seen Donald Trump. And I think at the end of the day, it's who you believe that the country was better off under. And taking personality out of it, I think the choice is clear. Yeah.
A lot is being said about the gender gap in this election between men and women. A lot of being said also about families where the husband might be voting for Trump and the wife is voting for Kamala Harris. Obviously, not every family. But I'm curious, as a young Republican woman, when it comes to the question of having the right to your reproductive freedom, how do you stand on that issue? And are there any concerns for you when it came to Donald Trump?
Not particularly, only because I see the issue of reproductive rights as less of a federal issue, and I don't see, even if there was an opportunity for Kamala Harris to come into office and somehow secure the right for women federal government to do, and it'd be challenged. And so regardless of what party was in office, whether the Republicans came in and wanted a ban or the Democrats came in and wanted that guaranteed right, I think either case it would be difficult for either party to work on a federal level. So for me, the issue of abortion was less of a factor in this election, although my personal stance is it's actually, I'm more so on the fence in terms of reproductive rights and in terms of pro-choice versus pro-life.
And you talked about how it's not personality that you were thinking so much more, but more about the issues and what you think is going to be better for you and for the country. But I'm still curious, when one of the things that we hear a lot from the Trump campaign is rhetoric against immigrants, against women sometimes. How do you respond to that? Did that ever bother you?
I don't know if it personally bothers me, and I think part of that comes from the influence of my parents who are immigrants to this country and do support, Donald Trump and are not bothered by his rhetoric. And so seeing immigrants who actually do support him makes me feel like, it's more about what he does and less about what he says. And I don't think that he is the perfect role model in terms of rhetoric, but we got to look at the agenda and what he's doing in the policy.
So there we have it. We are speaking to a young Republican lawyer telling us that they're looking beyond the rhetoric when it comes to Donald Trump. And at the moment, very happy and satisfied. They're still not calling it a complete victory yet, but really hopeful of their candidate, Donald Trump, winning this election.
All right, thanks very much. Let's go straight across to Chris Casquejo joining us from Michigan. Thanks, Chris, very much for being with us. If you look at Michigan, it's 52.4 in favor of the Republicans to 45.9, or I should say 45.9 in favor of the Democrats. No, I'll say that again, 52.4 in favor of the Republicans to 45.9 for the Democrats, with 49% of the votes in. Do you have any idea at this stage of where the remaining votes would be coming in from? Would these be urban areas, suburban areas, or both?
Yes, we have not seen the vote come in from Detroit yet, which is where I am. And, we were expecting it to come in, within the last hour, but the totals are not in. And obviously that would be a huge, it's a majority Black population. We would expect that Harris would run up the score in terms of the margins in this major urban area. But, whether it's enough to overcome that, roughly 200,000 vote lead that Donald Trump has jumped out to, we'll have to see. But the fact of the matter is that it's a very narrow path now for Kamala Harris to take the White House, with Georgia being projected for Donald Trump. So two of the Sun Belt battleground states, Georgia and North Carolina, have gone Trump's way, and now it's really, her path is basically keeping the blue wall that Biden won back in 2020 of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania if she wants to be in the White House.
That is interesting. What we've also learned in just the last 5 minutes or so is that Kamala Harris will not be addressing her supporters today. That's not going to be taking place. I don't know if that's a sign of her just wanting to wait till it's all over, or it stems from a sense of disappointment at what she's seeing right now. What is your sense, Chris, and typically how does it go in US elections in terms of calling the elections? How much longer do we need to wait? Because could we be in a situation where in the next 2 or 3 hours we see Trump come out or J.D. Vance come out and say that, look, we are headed to the White House?
Yeah, you might. I mean, that's what happened in 2020 before the votes were counted. So there's a chance that that might happen again. But I wouldn't read anything into Kamala Harris not speaking tonight because, again, those, the votes are still out in those 3 blue wall battleground states. And that really is what the Harris campaign has said was their path to victory. And they expected the margins to be razor thin. So it just depends on how she's performing in those urban and suburban areas, whether she can run up the score enough to overcome Trump's, wide leads in the rural counties. That's why the maps are so red in these states with a few blue dots, but those blue dots have much more, population because they're urban and suburban centers.
All right, Chris, we'll keep coming back to you, but I'm joined now by Rich Logis, the Florida co-chair for Republicans for Harris. Thank you very much, Rich, for being with us. A great sense of relief, I'm sure, for you at this stage. The numbers look positive for Donald Trump, not just in Florida, but across the country. Is it your sense that in the next couple of hours, we could see perhaps J.D. Vance or Trump himself come out and say that, look, it seems we are headed to the White House?
Thanks for having me. Always happy to join you here and your team. I'd be saying the same, irrespective of who was waiting for the votes to come in. Whether it was Mr. Trump, if he was on the other side here for waiting for votes, I would say that all the voters who cast votes, we thank you for that, and they deserve to have their votes counted. Do I think it's a distinct possibility former President Trump will do that? Probably. But we know that it's going to be many, many hours until all of those votes that were cast are in fact counted. So I would caution him, although I suspect he probably wouldn't heed my advice, to not declare victory. I don't think anyone should declare victory at this point because we are still waiting to make sure that everyone who enfranchised themselves, that we make sure that those votes are counted so we can have a final tally and we can accept the results because our elections are free and fair.
The only point, Rich, and I take your word of caution, absolutely you're right, that, let's not jump the gun. But if you do look at the swing states, I think that the key number now is the percentage of votes which are in. And if you look at Wisconsin, 76%, so that's robust. If you look at Pennsylvania, 66, North Carolina, a whopping 92, Michigan, 49, so not yet halfway, Georgia, 94%, Arizona, 50%. So in many of these states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Michigan, and Georgia, right? And it's neck and neck in Arizona, but by and large, it's the Republicans, Donald Trump, who's leading. With this percentage of votes in, the path for Kamala Harris appears to have narrowed substantially. She'd need to win a huge number of the remaining votes in all of these states if she has any chance. That's my sense of it. Would you agree?
It is a narrow path, but I would say that a narrow path is not a closed path. And something that may, in fact, actually pleasantly surprise all of us is that I believe that many of those votes that we're still waiting to be counted are some of those single issue voters whom I've been talking about quite a bit in the lead up to this election. And those are single issue voters who are actually do comprise a diverse assortment of voters ideologically. They are predominantly from urban, densely populated areas. And even with a narrow pathway, I still do not believe that that means that anyone at this moment should be declaring victory. But having said all of that, yes, it is true that the math might be an uphill battle right now, but just because it may be uphill does not mean that the race is over.
Let's go straight across. Thanks very much, Rich Logus, for speaking to us. Important words
My
of
pleasure.
caution. It is a narrow path ahead for Harris, but it's not a closed path at just this stage. But it does appear that Trump is well on his way to winning these elections. If this trend does continue, then the Republicans' chance of winning, Trump's chance of winning, now at a whopping 71% and just 27% for Kamala Harris. Alistair, let me go across to you at this stage. Give us a sense of what you are hearing, of what you're seeing. Is there a sense of despondency in the Democrat camp and overwhelming confidence among Republicans that, look, it's very difficult for them to lose from here on?
Yes, there's certainly a great deal of disappointment as far as the Democrats go. I was just at a Democratic party, a watch party, and I met these two gentlemen here. They're Kashmiri, now American Indians. This is Ashish and Raj, and they are both Republicans. So they were at a Democratic party supporting a friend, but they're actually Republicans, and they've been having a drink, enjoying the fact that perhaps Donald Trump will be president again.
That's right. That's right. We feel that he's winning all the key races in the country. So I feel that he will cross anything between 310 to 325.
Wow, so more than just the 270 that we're talking about. Now, you are both Republican supporters. I want to ask you, people say that Donald Trump is a racist, he's against immigrants. How could you support a president like that?
Hey, I'm here to support my friend Suhas, who's a Democrat, and I'm incredibly happy that he has won tonight.
This is the
question.
Right. So Suhas Subramaniam was elected tonight as the first Indian American from the East Coast to the House of Congress, and that's what Ashish is talking about. But I was just wondering, as a Republican, how do you feel about Donald Trump being back in power, potentially?
So I've kind of always been a centrist. I don't think I want to call myself Republican, although I did support Glenn Youngkin for the governor's race in Virginia. And I always look at the candidate, and I look at the merits of the candidate, whether that's Democratic or Republican. I know that Suhas is going to be a great congressman representing his district, working for his people and being very supportive of them and working for them for their benefit. And I'm incredibly excited about that and happy about that. At the same time, I feel like today we are at a crossroads in this country where we have to figure out like what are the policies that are really going to work in advantage of this country and get us to be the superpower and be.
And who can bring that?
I think that's Trump. Yeah, I think that's Trump.
All right. And a final question to you, Raj. We know that North Carolina has been called for Trump. What do you think worked in his favor in North Carolina this time around?
I think you have to look at the overall picture. The overall picture is, if you look at a 20-year or 25-year time frame, it is the democracy which wins in this country. So whether it is Democrats or Republicans, overall the country is moving forward. That's the first thing which you should know. The second thing is that it's not that Republicans are against immigrants. That's a wrong notion. It is that Republicans are against the illegal immigrants, and that any one of us should be. And that's the main thing which you should remember about the policy differences between the two countries.
So there you have it, Vishnu, those reactions coming in at this late hour. It's 1 a.m. Thank you guys for staying to talk to us. Handing it back to you in our studios in Delhi.
Alistair, thanks so much for joining us with those regular updates from Virginia. Let's also go across to Alex
for a quick question at the moment. Alexander, clearly things have not worked out the way the Democrats and Kamala Harris envisioned it to, at least so far. We're not calling it anything. But what do you really think went wrong for Harris and her team?
Well, we don't know yet, right? So we really have to be patient, and we have to wait, another, few hours, if not a day or two. But look, like there is clearly a major gender gap that we knew was in place here, where women disproportionately favored Harris and men Trump, and it looks like, and the results were very close, meaning the turnout was really key. And it's possible that, just not enough women have showed up, or too many men have showed up. That's definitely one of the possibilities. The other one is that Trump has clearly ran a smart campaign because, I mean, he has won North Carolina, he has very likely won Georgia. So the South is all red, belongs to Republicans, which poses a huge problem for Democrats because they now have to win just about every single of the remaining states up north.
Also, Alexander, it seems to be a bad time for incumbent governments world over. Can Trump's early projected victory as we speak somehow be also attributed to the fact that there's an anti-incumbent wave as far as Japan, Austria, Germany is concerned, and now globally?
To some extent, you might be right. It's hard to generalize, obviously, for the whole world, but there is a trend where voters, tend to vote more intuitively, more emotionally, and like to express their discontent through voting the incumbents out worldwide, whether you're in Europe or in the US or in Asia. So I think there's to some extent that trend. I think there's less policy evaluation. Know that there was much of it before, but there's even less of it now. And it's really more on the sort of the emotional level, the trend level. We do live in an age of social media that is fast and flips much faster than the way we used to live before.
A quick question, just in terms of what's increasingly staring us in the face in the US. Senate has gone to the Republicans. The Democrats would retain Congress. The White House is going to the Republicans at this stage. The Supreme Court is Republican as well. So this is what America might look like for the next several years. A complete wave against the Democrats and a certain way of thinking and a certain notion of democracy, which we've seen certainly in the pre-Trump era.
Well, to some extent, yes. Look, the math on the Senate side of things was really stacked up against the Democrats this time around. The way it works, Senate changes every 2 years, a third of it changes. And so Democrats were really defending many more states than the Republicans were. So, clearly, loss of the Senate is a big issue. We'll see what happens on the House side. That's not clear either. Trump has succeeded in reshaping the Supreme Court. He's also nominated before Biden, obviously, many of the lower instance judges. So, this could be, the next 2 years could definitely be Republican dominated.
Meanwhile, Alexander, I wanted to touch upon another important issue, which is the United States' relationship with China. Now, let's say under Trump's presidency, so under Trump 2.0, can we expect more stability as far as your relationship with Beijing is concerned, or are we looking at another trajectory?
Look, Washington, D.C. is a very divided city, and Democrats and Republicans don't agree on almost anything. If they do agree on something, it is on their stance against China. So I would say that as far as the U.S.-China relations go, it's actually not going to be dramatically different whether Democrats or Republicans, control control Congress and the White House. In that sense, China is the major opponent of the United States. It seemed like that across the board and across the parties.
But do you agree with the view that some in China would actually rather face another term with Trump again because he's more of a wild card as opposed to Kamala Harris, who they say is less likely to make sweeping deals?
Look, I certainly don't want to speak for Beijing and what they want, but I think I will leave it up to them. I don't want to speak to what Beijing might want.
Well, let's go across to Puneet Ahluwalia, who also joins us at this stage. Puneet, it seems that the path open for Kamala Harris appears, to be shrinking. But if I was just to sort of look at the numbers, the percentage of votes in the swing states, there's still some room for maneuver for the Democrats. For example, in Arizona, only 50% of the votes are in. In Michigan, 59% of the votes are in. Nevada, we really don't know what's happening at this stage. Even Pennsylvania, 66% of the votes are in. And if you look at the numbers in the Democrats and Republicans, yes, the Republicans are ahead, but in most cases, it's just about 2%. So are we getting ahead of ourselves by saying, or is anybody getting ahead of themselves by saying that it's going to be Trump all the way?
Well, at least we have the Senate and the House we feel strong about. White House, yes, there's a path for President Trump. It's looking concrete as he won Georgia and North Carolina. But yes, we are optimistic because we see, and when you start looking at just states and the counties and the success President Trump has had, and more importantly, how Kamala Harris has not been able to match the numbers of President Biden, I believe it starts to become more and more optimistic that we will win the White House. But more importantly, I believe that that tomorrow morning we should have an answer, a clear answer, and a clear win. And
do we expect Trump himself to speak, or J.D. Vance, I believe, is preparing to speak? When Vance does speak, do you expect it to be virtually an election victory speech?
Well, I believe President Trump will not give a choice to anybody to speak but himself first, because that's what President Trump is. He loves the mic and he can go on. Apparently, he was speaking till almost 2 o'clock last night campaigning. He loves to tell the people. He loves America. He loves the people, and he wants to get his message out, and he wants to thank the people who have really come out and stood by him, because he was taken down, he was shot at, he was almost assassinated. So this man truly loves the country. He's very passionate about what he believes in, and that's the reason you see a great momentum, not only in the middle America, but also in the large immigrant communities, which are really coming out and flocking and resonating his message, including the Arab Americans, the Hispanic Americans, the Black Americans. And again, if you see on Kamala Harris' side, she rejected the Catholic vote. So why she's losing in Pennsylvania, it's one of those reasons. And we've seen also the Hispanics come out in Pennsylvania, come out and support President Trump, as they did in Florida. So I think he's a phenomenon. He's a tenacious campaigner. And I think that's why we are having these victories and across. And we've seen the success of flipping the Senate. And that's going to help President Trump get the right people nominated to carry on his agenda from the last term. And you will see more peace through strength, because you will see the Abraham Accord now unfold in its true essence, what he had envisioned. More peace between Israel and Middle East countries, and more importantly, re-engaging with North Korea, and most importantly, finding a way to have peace in Ukraine and Europe. And most importantly, the European partners have to cough up more dollars for their safety and security.
Well, Puneet, on that point then, global actors noticed that the United States actually applies one standard to Russia's actions on Ukraine and another to Israel's in Gaza. In fact, many of Trump's critics, as things are looking up for him, I must also mention that many of Trump's critics have raised questions about his climate change policies, the future of NATO, whether NATO is going to be in tricky hands. Where does this all stand at the moment? How do we make sense of it?
It sounds very clear. It's very. If you see his previous administration, peace through strength, if you saw he was engaging very effectively with on the Abraham Accord with the Middle East, with the Saudis, the UAE, and the Israeli community, Israeli leadership, Netanyahu, he's a great partner and a friend of the United States and President Trump. I believe the proxy war, which are started and initiated by Iran, should come to a standstill. I think there'll be a way to curtail or contain Iran, and more importantly, let the freedom in Iran come across, because there are a lot of people who want a free Iran, an open Iran, because at one point Iran was a great ally of the United States, and we have seen that the Shah of Iran, his son has stood up and said, "Look, I'm willing to go out and take the leadership realm, leadership of Iran." So multiple opportunities will happen under President Trump because he's strong and decisive, and he's very clear where he wants to be. And I believe we should re-engage with North Korea, and we should find a way to all work together. And I think India will play a very important role. Despite all the people talking about that he's going to double the tariff, he's going to do whatever he is going to do. But at the same time, India also has to realize that President Trump's also means bottom line, which means what is important for the United States, how does it create jobs, but how is it mutually beneficial for both nations? And I think both him and Modi have great dynamics, and I hope that translates into success for both nations.
Right, we will of course be patient and wait for the results to trickle in. But in terms of the other aspect, Vishnu, has been the record money that's been pumped into this election by both sides. Many say it's democracy at work, but also many say that it could also be bribing your voters and all. I want to find out where Puneet stands on this.
Well, if you saw our Kamala Harris has become the party of the rich and the elitists. You saw Oprah Winfrey, and you saw Mike Jagger, you saw Ricky Martin, all the famous, and Gaga, who was out there supporting her. And that's what the difference is. That's why President Trump is winning among the large, hardworking Americans, because now the Democratic Party is perceived as warmongers, the party of the rich and the elitist. And that's the reason why you see the LinkedIn and the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world supporting him. And whereas people who are adopted Americans, just like Musk and myself, are supporting President Trump because we believe in the American dream. So yes, money is a big part of it, of the play, but it doesn't help. It's the right message. That's what matters.
You're talking about Musk. Musk has been tweeting away.
Yes,
firstly, he's tweeted to say that there's a record usage of his platform. And then he's got a meme or picture of his AI, whatever, of him inside the Oval Office, carrying something. With Trump. Yeah, and he's got a picture of him and Trump as well. And he says the future is going to be so hot. And he's got an emoji.
Classic Musk.
Yeah, that's right. So Elon Musk doesn't have much more to say. I mean, he's already celebrating, as are all of these people on our screens right now. This is from a stage which has been set up for J.D. Vance to speak. And I presume this is near Mar-a-Lago, where the US president is. He's been watching all that's been happening, and he'll come out and speak. And we do know that Kamala Harris is not going to be addressing her supporters just yet, perhaps not for the next several hours. Tonight, India time, I mean, if she does speak, she would speak then. Again, there is still that window for the Democrats to sort of sneak in through if they do really well in the swing states. But that really depends on how many of these states, how many of the votes are coming in from urban areas where it is believed that Kamala Harris is going to be strong. But let's just have, the overall graphics up on the screen so that, we can just go through what the present trends are right now. Firstly, what you do see here are Republican states. Now, these are the votes over there. There are no surprises over here. This is not really what we are talking about, because there are two bastions in the US. One, of course, the Republican states. It's going all to the Republicans. No surprises there. If you take a look at the Democrat states, you'll have lots of blue states as well. So let's change the image, go across to the blue states, and here you'll have the Democrat states. And again, no surprises at all over there. All of these are going the Democrat way. So as has been predicted by pollsters, it is the swing states which are really going to decide which party wins or which president comes to power. So I'm going to walk up over here to give you an idea of what it is that we are talking about. There are 7 swing states in the United States. You've got them on your screen over there. Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, as well up in the north. and Wisconsin. Now, there are two states, Georgia and North Carolina, which at this stage are projected to go to Donald Trump. It seems very difficult, even with some votes left to be counted, for these to turn and go towards the Democrat side, which leaves Kamala Harris with 5 states, right? Sorry, 4 states where she still has a bit of a chance. But is that going to necessarily 5 states, I should correct myself, give her a real opportunity to do well? It seems difficult because Trump is doing quite well. So let's take a look, for example, in Arizona. That's where Arizona is in the United States.
Look at the margin, Vishnu. It's 0.4.
Yeah, I was speaking about Arizona. Let's go back to the previous screen, if we can, please. So Arizona over there, it's neck and neck in Arizona right now. Too close to call. Really depends on who's going to go which way. Kamala Harris needs to win Arizona. There are no two ways about it. With North Carolina and Georgia having gone to the Republicans. Georgia we've already discussed. Let's talk about Michigan. That's up to the north over there. It was going in favor of the Democrats. That's changed. It's now quite clearly with the Republicans. Nevada, we don't have any numbers for Nevada. That's a bit surprising because we haven't had them all morning. Let's go to the next page and give you the remaining 3 states over here. North Carolina with the Republicans. They won that state. Pennsylvania, that's where this election is going to be written. It's about a 2% gap between Trump and Harris. But at this stage, unless there is something dramatic which goes in favor of the Democrats, whether it's the urban voter, whether it's voters, minority voters, women voters, voters in urban centers like Philadelphia, it's going to be difficult for Kamala Harris. Wisconsin, again, clearly in favor of Trump supporters at this stage. So, they've won 2, 5 remaining, and they could easily win 2 or 3 more, in which case, it's a done deal. There's not much left over here. Parmeshwar?
In fact, Vishnu, we also have Ajay Jain Bhutoria, who's the Deputy Finance Chair of the Democratic Party, joining us. Mr. Bhutoria, things are not really looking up for your party at the moment, but are you still hopeful?
I disagree with you. This is what was expected and is playing out the way. And we are going to win Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. That will put across 276, and that will help us win the election. As one of your speaker was saying earlier, there are different kind of voters, urban voters, rural voters, early mail-in ballots, and so many other things. So you see ups and downs in the numbers coming in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. But when all the mail-in ballots and everything is counted, we are going to win these 4 states and we are going to win the election. And we might lose Arizona, which will put Trump to 255, but that's okay. Once we get clarity by the end of the day tomorrow, we will be seeing the finish line. Kamala will be the next president.
But Mr. Bhutoria, you mentioned Michigan. In Detroit, people are actually pretty unhappy with the Democratic Party. Do you think you could have done something better there in terms of election strategy? Because clearly Trump and his team have capitalized upon it so far.
Well, I mean, there are so many diverse groups of people, and each group has their own, success and pain points. And the President Biden and Vice President Harris has been addressing those things. Whether it could have been done better? Yes, of course. There is always chance and opportunity for doing things better. But ultimately, it's about winning and doing good for the people, and that's what we tend to do, continue doing.
The overall, numbers, 461 of 536, 538 seats, leads and results is what I'm talking about. The Republicans are at 247, the Democrats at 214. The Republicans have a chance of winning at 71%. What Ajay Jain Bhutoria is talking about are the swing states, where he believes that because there is a significant percentage of votes which are still remaining, there is a chance for Kamala Harris and the Democrats to do well. But Ajay, my question to you, let's talk about Wisconsin. You are 4 percentage points, behind the Republicans are at 51.2, the Democrats at 47.3. A whopping 76% of votes have already come in. So, the path for you to actually get ahead and win that state looks difficult. If you look at Pennsylvania, there's a robust 66% of votes which are in, you are 2 percentage points behind the Republicans, right? And, you know, it's the same story for all of the other states.
I hear you. I just want to share one thing, and our campaign chair, Jen O'Malley, sent out an email 2 days back, and she clearly outlined how this is going to play out. And this is exactly how this is playing out. She outlined that in early voting, early reporting, you will see that Trump is ahead. But you know, when everything plays out, we will win. So I am going by what our campaign chair has said in that email, which clearly outlined. And she also outlined that Trump might declare victory early, maybe tonight or early tomorrow. And but I won't be surprised if she does that.
All right, so going down to the wire is what you are saying. That's been the sense of pollsters as well, that it is going absolutely down to the wire. Thank you very much for being with us. So Parmeshwar, next couple of hours, America is going to be sleeping by and large. Yes. We will be keeping track of the results.
We'll be on our toes.
We'll be on our toes. But I think by about 7, 8 p.m. IST this evening onwards, we'll get a clearer idea of who's going to be president of the United States.
Right now, UNICEF is supporting millions of children in emergencies around the world. It's what they do. Teams are bringing emergency supplies to children affected by the crisis in Gaza, healthcare and safe spaces for Ukraine's children, and medical supplies for children in Yemen. £10 could help bring safe drinking water and life-saving therapeutic food. Search UNICEF supplies online or text supplies to 85525. Your support brings hope for children caught in crisis.
Family life. It's made of ups and downs, and those little moments. But should the unthinkable happen to you? Life insurance from Legal & General can help look after monthly bills, the roof over their heads, childcare costs, and most importantly, your family. Because no one protects more families in the UK than us. Premiums start from £5 a month and they never rise. Plus there's a £120 gift card after you apply. Legal & General. Ensure life goes on.
We all love a bargain, like these flatmates who switched to Vodafone and are now paying less for their full fibre broadband, which means they can still stream 2 shows at the same time, but for less. Still gaming with mates, but for less. He's behind you. Reliable full fibre broadband for less. And now switching to Vodafone full fibre broadband is easy with one touch switch. We sort everything out for you. We even call your current provider and help towards any leaving fees. So switch today.
It's that time again as citizens put their doors in the drawer for People's Postcode Lottery's biggest ever prize pot.
In the December draws, you and your neighbours could win a share of £32.5 million.
Whether you own or rent, absolutely any door can enter. Sign up before midnight on the 1st of December.
A share of £32.5 million could be yours, but only if your door is in the draw.
If you have cancer, it might affect your finances. But Macmillan Support is just a free phone call away.
Can I get a sec for having cancer?
Whether you need to ask about work.
What if I can't afford my home?
Struggling with bills.
I can't afford the heating.
Energy worries.
How am I going to support my family?
Or sorting out your finances. Whatever you need to ask about money and cancer, we are here 7 days a week. Call us free now on 0808 239 1000.
I've been thinking, I want to plan my funeral so it feels more like a celebration. My parents always said I was born dancing. I just love it. Bhangra, disco, even line dancing. So when my time comes, I want to have music, dancing, the lot.
With over 150 years' experience, you can count on Co-op Funeral Care to help you pre-plan the funeral you want. To find out more, visit Co-op Funeral Care or give us a call.
Dreams come true, come to the other side. I can feel energy. I believe in healing me. All I need is sweet release in the freedom of the night. Freedom of the night. Join me and the Style Squad. Shop now exclusively at Freeman's.
When you're setting up a new nest, starting your own flock,
or they just keep on growing. Get the flexibility you need with VeryPay. Pay now, pay later, or pay over 3 months and pay no interest. We'll even send you helpful payment reminders. Shop the online store for fashion, home and more. VeryPay. Ways to pay that work your way.
Greetings, wonderful people of Britain. I'm Tom Allen, and it's my pleasure to declare delivering good news is a daily routine with People's Postcode Lottery. Curious on how it works? Well, prick up your ears and let me explain. Enter with your postcode to play. Own it, rent it, doesn't matter. Winning postcodes are announced every day with a whole host of delightful prizes that could be won by you and your neighbours.
And in our December draws, you could win a share of £32.5 million.
It costs £12 for a monthly subscription that guarantees you entry into all draws every month. You're also doing your part for charities, with players having raised £1.4 billion so far. Want to find out more or join? Then why not hop onto our website or dial our digits for a chit-chat. For a chance to win, sign up before midnight on the 1st of December. You never know, good news could be delivered to your postcode.
When Tony passed, we wanted to celebrate him his way. All he ever spoke about was bite this, bite that. I'll never forget our first date. Huge grin on his face as he rode up on that big noisy thing. And that's exactly the way he'd want to be remembered.
At Co-op Funeral Care, we know everyone is different. That's why we offer funeral plans to funeral services that are personal, every step of the way.
Family life. It's made of ups and downs, and those little moments. But should the unthinkable happen to you? Life insurance from Legal & General can help look after monthly bills, the roof over their heads, childcare costs, and most importantly, your family. Because no one protects more families in the UK than us. Premiums start from £5 a month and they never rise. Plus there's a £120 gift card after you apply. Legal & General. Ensure life goes on.
Guarantees, and it will be Rahul Gandhi who will be there in Maharashtra during that announcement. A third of Ranthambhore's tigers are missing, and Rajasthan government has set up a probe committee to investigate the disappearance of 25 tigers in the last 1 year. A very good afternoon. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Divya Vadwa. Let's get you a top story. That's Mysuru Lokayukta Police. That's questioning Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah in the Muda scam. Do remember his wife has already been questioned by the investigating officers. This is the first time that the Chief Minister is being questioned in the case. They are investigating the role that the Chief Minister has played in the allotment of 14 Muda sites to his wife Parvati back in 2021. The Chief Minister is confronted at the moment with several issues, from Muda scam to Waqf, ahead of the impending by-elections in 3 important constituencies in rural Karnataka. The Lokayukta has already filed a first information report and FIR on the orders of a special court. Besides Siddaramaiah, it's also his wife as well as his brother-in-law who have been named in the FIR. Do remember the Enforcement Directorate has also filed a money laundering case against Siddaramaiah and others, and it is the Enforcement Directorate that had conducted searches in various locations of Karnataka in connection with the Muda-linked money laundering case. Let's listen into what Priyank Kharge had to say.
Why should the CM resign? All right. The Honorable BJP President, the state BJP President, has a ED case against him. ECIR has been registered. Has he resigned? It's a very serious offence. And this is a politically motivated case. Everybody knows it. How they misuse governor's office, how they are misusing other constitutional institutions. So there's nothing surprising. And Honorable CM has very clearly, categorically told that, look, this is politically motivated and I'm a law-abiding citizen. Whatever the constitutional institutions ask me to do, I will do. And he is sure that he's going to come out of this.
And we have Pratibha joining us to get us more on this. Pratibha, you know, as trouble and worry that mounts as far as the Chief Minister is concerned, from the ED now to Lokayukta, all questioning him in regarding his role as far as the Mysuru-linked Muda scam is concerned.
That's right, and this assumes significance mainly because this is the first time he is being questioned by the Lokayukta officials with respect to the Muda scam. The Lokayukta has earlier conducted investigation as well as interrogated several of Siddaramaia's relatives, including his brother-in-law as well as his wife. And today we are talking of Siddaramaiah giving his answers with respect to the entire allegations that have been haunting him for a couple of months now. This also comes amidst calls for his resignation. The BJP has been relentlessly protesting as well as demanding a CBI probe there. But with respect to this particular investigation, it is definitely a two-pronged attack of sorts when it comes to Siddaramaiah, mainly because you have the Lokayukta investigation on one hand, you have the ED investigation on the other. The ED has been looking into the money laundering aspect of it and the financial transactions concerned with it. The ED has also conducted its raids with respect to several officials related to Muda there. And now we have the election, that is the impending by-election in 3 constituencies in Karnataka, and Siddaramaiah has a lot to deal with. On one hand, he has the Lokayukta investigation, the Muda allegations with respect to ED, and on the other, he has the Waqf controversy that has also been clouding with respect to the political flashpoint here between the Congress and the BJP here. The consequences of this in terms of not just the election but also his political career is something that we need to closely watch. Back to you.
Right, all eyes on the Lokayukta there questioning the Chief Minister in regard to the role that he's played in the allocation as far as those 14 Mysuru, the Muda sites are concerned, to his wife Parvati back in 2021. We will keep coming back to you, Pratibha. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, switching tracks to Jammu and Kashmir, and ruckus broke out on the 3rd day of the ongoing assembly session, and this is as the Deputy Chief Minister has gone ahead and, he passed the resolution to demand the restoration of Jammu and Kashmir's special status. The Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory Legislative Assembly passed a historic resolution seeking the restoration of the erstwhile state's special status under Article 370, which was revoked in August of 2019 by the centre. To get more on this, we have Nazir joining us. Nazir, take us through the proceedings of the assembly session and the ruckus that broke out with the BJP completely opposing, saying this is not what they were expecting.
Well, clearly it took everybody by surprise when suddenly Speaker announced that the Deputy Chief Minister Surinder Chaudhary will be moving a resolution on special revocation of special status, opposing it and demanding restoration of special status. As he read it, and it was seconded by Minister Sakina Yatu, then there was a pandemonium in House, and BJP members were shouting slogans, calling Surinder Chaudhary as Jai Chand of Jammu, and saying it is a Pakistani agenda, bringing this resolution. And there were slogans, and even they tore apart the copies of the resolution, while as the Treasury benches by showing the copies of and saying they want special status back. But let's talk more about it from with Aga Ruhullah, MP Srinagar, who has been vociferously talking about restoration of 370 and opposing this abrogation of 370. Aga Saab, so finally
finally the day has come. We made the whole promise. We made the promise throughout our campaign that we'll bring a resolution rejecting the decisions of August 5 and calling for the restoration of the dignity, the rights which is given to us through Article 370. And today we did it. I'm thankful to my party, to my colleagues, and most important of all, the Chief Minister, Mr. Omar Abdullah, for living up to the expectations of the people and fulfilling the commitment. This is not the end of all. This is the beginning of the road. I expect all of us to take this task and take this to the logical conclusion where we mean that the rights and the dignity of the people of Jammu and Kashmir is respected, and the union listens to what
and BJP is not,
Jammu and Kashmir.
And BJP is strongly opposing it. They are not allowing House to function, even as the House was adjourned, but they are staying in the well of the House, still just.
As expected, this behavior was not unexpected. They do not respect the sentiments of they do not demand it. This is how they have turned the entire nation into. And the institutions, to be more specific, you should respect the mandate of the institutions. This is all about theatrics and their political agenda. And more important than that is what the people of Jammu and Kashmir today said through the assembly. And I hope the entire nation listens to it. It is more important that they listen to it. They respect the mandate. They respect the opinion of the people. This has come democratically. This is a democratic forum. People today have expressed themselves democratically. Any democratic expression needs to be respected. If the people of the rest of the nation wants Jammu and Kashmir to be a part of a democracy, and we, the people of Jammu and Kashmir, to be a part of an India which is functional democracy, then the democratic opinion and mandates should be respected.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aga Ruhullah, Srinagar MP, who has been a strong votary and opposing abrogation of 70. The language, PDP has been questioning the language, saying it is a bit mild, but the fact is nobody was expecting that National Conference will keep its promise. And what Umar Abdullah has said, that the first transaction of the business of Jammu and Kashmir as a Legislative Assembly will be passing a resolution opposing abrogation of special status to Jammu and Kashmir and demanding restoration of special status. And in the resolution, which has been passed, and 60 members have voted in favor of it. BJP's 28 members opposed it, and clearly a massive political development in Jammu and Kashmir on the third day of the first assembly session, which has happened after long 7 years and over 6 years of presidential rule in Jammu and Kashmir.
Right, thank you so much, Nazir, for getting us those details. We will be back with a whole lot more. But switching tracks for now, the Maharashtra election appears close, complex and chaotic, and it's been 2 days since Prime Minister Modi arrived in the state of Maharashtra to address his first 2 public meetings. But today is Rahul Gandhi, the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, who will be launching the Mahavikas Aghadi's poll campaign along with other senior leaders of the opposition. However, the UBT has unveiled 5 poll promises. Shiv Sena chief Uddhav Thackeray has said that if his MVA government comes back into power in the state of Maharashtra, it would ensure that prices of 5 essential food items, including sugar, pulses as well as grain, are kept under check. Uddhav Thackre's poll promises came just hours after Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde announced Mahayuti's 10 poll promises. That also includes high support for poor women, pensioners and farmers. My colleague Radhika breaks it down for us, because it's guarantees versus guarantees, and what can we really expect today in the state of Maharashtra?
A lot of poll promises and SOPs being offered by both Mahayuti as well as MVA. In fact, yesterday Eknath Shinde promised 10 poll guarantees in Kolhapur. In fact, it involved financial assistance to women. We know for a fact that there had been a Ladki Behan scheme which involved giving women 1,500 per month. Eknath Shinde there, in fact, promising to increase the financial assistance to 2,100 per month if Mahayuti comes back to power. Besides that, of course, farm loan waiver and also more pension support for senior citizens, as well as creation of more jobs and stabilizing prices for essential commodities are some of the poll guarantees as far as Mahayuti is concerned. This is something that Eknath Shinde in his speech said in Kolhapur yesterday. But at the same time, Uddhav Thackeray also making a slew of poll promises on behalf of MVA, which again included financial assistance in terms of free education for girls and boys, recruitment of more women cops, and also stabilizing of essential prices of essential commodities, as well as a farm loan waiver and affordable homes to residents of Maharashtra, especially in Mumbai. So multiple guarantees, SOPs being given out by both the Mahayuti as well as MVA. We know for a fact that Rahul Gandhi is in Maharashtra today. He will be in Nagpur in just a bit, after which he will be in Mumbai for a public rally where he will be giving out a poll guarantee card of sorts, and more guarantees will be presented when all the MVA leaders will be part of that particular rally. Rahul Gandhi will be accompanied by Mallikarjun Kharge as well as Uddhav Thackeray, Sharad Pawar and several other top leaders of MVA. So more guarantees there. There could be an announcement of caste-based census, more farm loan waiver and also a counter to the Ladki Behan scheme as well. So guarantees after guarantees, but will that translate into votes? Will that really woo voters of Maharashtra and translate into votes? That remains to be seen.
Right, Radhika, we will keep coming back to you for more on that. Of course, also in Maharashtra, now regional manifesto that was released. We're talking about NCP's manifesto for Baramati, where Ajit Pawar has made promises, first of its kind. We're talking about a sports academy in Baramati. We're also talking about food processing units, solar energy, and a lot more. And we have Anuj joining us. Anuj, take us through the promises that have been made by Ajit Pawar.
NCP's currently the program for manifesto publishing is currently on across the state. I'm standing here in Mumbai, but wherever there are NCP candidates here in the state, the program is taking place concurrently. We are seeing that NCP has released two types of manifestos. One is a regional manifesto which promises which tells people what to expect if NCP is elected to power there as far as that particular region is concerned. And then there is another much broader manifesto which talks about the entirety of the state. And there we can see that on very similar lines to what Chief Minister Eknath Shinde said yesterday, the promises which have been made here are also about an increase in the Maji Ladki Bahin Yojana scheme from 1,500 rupees to 2,100 rupees. We're seeing that this entire manifesto is very student, women and farmer centric. They've also promised as many as 25 lakh jobs going ahead. They've stated that the ASHA workers would get an increased payment of 15,000 rupees from what is the case at the moment. They've also promised a farmer's loan waiver, although the number has not been specified. NCP's manifesto specifically talks about having more number of roads. They've talked about increasing rural connectivity and increasing the number of roads by as much as 45,000 rupees. And besides that, of course, as I said before, Ajit Pawar, while speaking from Baramati, specified on how he'll be working to get one of the first of its kind sports center in Baramati, keeping in mind the wrestling and the boxing culture there, and also talked about creating more jobs for people from the people from agrarian background as far as their profession is concerned.
Thanks for getting us all those details. And now let's just switch tracks. Live visuals on your screen of a campaign rally being held in Florida by Donald Trump. And from the looks of it, it seems like he might just be becoming the next president of the United States. We're talking about the Republicans there who have, in fact, won in two swing states. We're talking about the state of North Carolina as well as Georgia. Those two key battleground states have been won by Republicans. We're talking about Donald Trump winning there. And even in other swing states, we're talking about 4 other swing states where Donald Trump is in the lead. So it is Trump, this show of strength. That is what New York Times is saying. The Republicans are in the lead. There you can see numbers on your screen of Donald Trump winning at 247 with Kamala Harris at 214. Do remember this was a neck-to-neck race up until yesterday. But all that seems to be changing at the moment. And let's just go right across to our colleague Jennifer Glasse, who is joining us from Florida and taking us through what's really happening on the ground.
This is the convention center right here. This is where Donald Trump is expected to address the public. We understand that they are moving people from Mar-a-Lago here. We've seen 2 motorcades come here so far. There was a helicopter overhead, so that might have been J.D. Vance when they moved him from the convention center back to Mar-a-Lago earlier today. That was the formation that they used. So we are expecting Donald Trump to speak from here at some points. But as the point has been made, many of the swing states have not yet been called. I think until he feels he has a very clear path to 270 or a clincher on 270, he may wait. But we do understand that folks from Mar-a-Lago, about 2.5 miles that way, are heading here to the convention center ahead of Trump's speech. There's been a real sense of excitement here. People have been lining the streets here. People were behind me just a few minutes ago with Trump flags. The motorcades went in just over there. As you can see, there are security fences all around the convention center, but traffic is flowing pretty freely. A huge security presence here, though. They have shut down streets here and there. They shut down the roads when the convoys make a move. But very much excitement among Trump supporters here today. They've gathered here in large numbers. They were lining the street earlier, and you can see some of them now moving out because all the action's going to move inside.
Right, and of course, Kamala Harris seems to be losing out as far as those battleground states are concerned. That really holds the key to who will win. And Trump has managed to flip a victory in states which had voted Democrats in 2020. We're talking about Donald Trump flipping Georgia in a huge setback to Kamala Harris. And it is Donald Trump who seems to be leading as far as the swing states are concerned. It is quite a huge setback to Kamala Harris, who was, as you know, in the race to become the first woman president of the United States. But there you can see numbers on your screen of her at 214 with Donald Trump at 247. So Donald Trump in the lead in all the swing states. As of now, 6 out of the 7 swing states is where Donald Trump is leading with a huge margin. That's what we are seeing. It was a very razor-thin margin that we were seeing early this morning, but all that seems to have changed with Donald Trump really flipping all states which were basically all Democrats, and they were supporting Democrats, but now it seems to be that they want a change. Could it be because they saw Kamala Harris as someone who would perhaps follow in the footsteps of Joe Biden? Is that why that they wanted a change, which is why they voted in for Donald Trump? Of course, there was a lot of stars supporting Kamala Harris. We saw Lady Gaga as well as Oprah Winfrey, a lot of film stars, movie stars and singers supporting Kamala Harris. And on the other side, Elon Musk, the biggest supporter that Donald Trump has. So, of course, how does this really change things for us back here in India? How will the relationships between India and US change under the regime of Donald Trump, who seems to be in the lead at the moment? And if he is set to become the next president of the United States, if he's going to make his re-entry into the White House after that huge loss that he suffered to Joe Biden in the last term in 2020. So how different can it be under Donald Trump? Can he really take care of the war in Gaza and in Ukraine? That's the big question. Donald Trump has been heard saying that if it was for him, there would never be a war in Ukraine. Well, and let's just also go across to Ashok Sajanhar, a former diplomat who is joining us.
We all love a bargain, like the Grants, who switched to Vodafone and are now paying less for their full fibre broadband, which means they're still double screening,
for about 45 years,
but for less. And last-minute panic downloading, but for less. Reliable full fibre broadband for less. And now switching to Vodafone full fibre broadband is easy with one touch switch. We sort everything out for you. We even call your current provider and help towards any leaving fees. So switch today.
Family life. It's made of ups and downs and those little moments. But should the unthinkable happen to you? Life insurance from Legal & General can help look after monthly bills, the roof over their heads, childcare costs, and most importantly, your family. Because no one protects more families in the UK than us. Premiums start from £5 a month and they never rise. Plus there's a £120 gift card after you apply. Legal & General. Ensure life goes on.
Join me and the Style Squad. Shop now exclusively at Freeman's.
Breaking news. Whoa. Duracell, the official partner of Williams Racing.
It's time for a power boost. I gotta train harder. Whoa! Power boost activated. Try Duracell Optima for the next level of power.
Whatever you need to ask about cancer, Macmillan's free support line is just a call away.
Hello, Macmillan.
Whether it's money or work worries.
Am I going to lose my job?
Getting on with life.
Can I still go abroad? Get insurance?
Or just need someone to listen.
How do I tell them?
Our specialist advisors are here to help as often as you need them. Whatever you need to ask, cancer, work, money, life, call us now on 0808 134 1000.
It's that time again as citizens put their doors in the drawer for People's Postcode Lottery's biggest ever prize pot.
In the December draws, you and your neighbours could win a share of